Hello and welcome back to another episode of Podcast 572. As always, I'm your host, Kyle. I'm joined by my two friends, Dan and Matt. This is probably the most excited I've been to record an episode of this podcast since we started.
A lot happened in between this and last
we'll
episode.
get to that more in the news, but we'll kick off as we always do with what we've been playing. I've been playing a lot of Infinite Wealth. I have one other game that I've been playing. I'll talk about that first, and then I'll go into Infinite Wealth. So okay. I was kicking around partially because of this Xbox news, which we'll get to in the news, but I was kicking around on my PC just looking at like what games are Play Anywhere for Microsoft stuff right now. And I discovered that Middle-earth Shadow of War is a Play Anywhere game, which I own because a while ago I bought like this $9 version that has everything.
Right.
So I said, fuck it. I'm going to install it. I'm going to check out Shadow of War because I'm in the mood for that Nemesis system. And I've played about 5 hours of it. I just literally installed it yesterday. But I've also will say I have not left the beginning area because I'm just killing the captains.
You remember how that Nemesis system was like supposed to be like the hot new
thing? It amazes me that it never went to any other game. Like they kind of use a version of it in the Assassin's Creed games, like the recent ones, but not. It's kind of there, but not really.
Yeah.
It's not as in depth as these games. And it also amazes me that we never got another Middle-earth game after this. Like they cranked out these two and then we're done.
They were both super popular.
They're both super popular. The other thing I've forgotten about Shadow of War is, remember when that game launched, it had all sorts of like shit microtransaction stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's all been removed out. Like when you load the game the first time, it literally comes up with a message of like, hey, we hear you. We removed all that shit. You know, play the game as you normally would.
That's cool. And that still like pops up with that.
So it still pops. It even has a date, but it doesn't have the year. So it's like April, whatever. Yeah,
I mean,
it's been a couple years.
Those games came out when we worked at
that game came out in 2016.
Yeah, it still works.
So good. God, I love those games.
And I like I said, I have not left the beginning area, which is like this major city with their sieges going on, because I'm just killing those people. And then I kind of forgot, like the more and more I kill those people in the Nemesis system, it just generates harder people.
Yep.
And so now I'm like, all right, I need to actually start doing the story here because they're higher and higher level as you kill. The next one gets cycled in. So, but I put it first on a harder difficulty. I had to lower it because it was actually too challenging when you're first starting out. But I got killed by the same guy like 4 or 5 times. He just ranked up to some ridiculous like level. Like I'm level 1 at that time. He probably ranked from like level 10 to level 20 just in the couple of times he killed me. But again, it's such a genius system that I cannot believe no other game has really like.
You know what it would have been really
advantage.
Cool in would have been like Arkham Knight or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
like they could have done something with like crime bosses or something.
Yeah, or just like there's persistent like villains that keep coming back kind of thing.
Because the other thing that again that like not only does it have that going for it, but it also has that Arkham combat.
Right.
Yeah. But it's just swordplay, but it works really well.
WB games, and it would have been the kind of thing where, like, pick a third tier Batman villain, but like you beat him and you lock him up, and then he breaks out and he's smarter.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like there's something they could have done, but.
So more to come on that. I'm going to slowly pick away at that in the background. It runs great on PC. So that was kind of the reason I wanted to play on PC too. Is like they never did any kind of like next gen patch for that game or anything. So. But it runs great on PC. So, but Infinite Wealth, I'm about 30 plus hours into it now. I'm in chapter 6 or chapter 7. It continues to amaze me. Like even in the beginning of this game where like you're with your original, ragtag team of homies. Yeah. And then you leave to go to Hawaii. And I was initially bummed of like, okay, I'm going over here, and they don't come with you. But man, you meet a new crew of people. Yeah. And they're all really well written. And like the way that they will first be introduced, and then it's like they go about this roundabout way of like, oh, well, they start out as maybe a villain or something, but Ichiban is such a likable guy that all of a sudden now they're part of his crew because he's converted them. And that, again, he continues to be an incredible character.
Yeah.
There's the only thing I'll give a minor spoiler to this, but I thought this was really cool in this game. They have a character that he first meets when you get to Hawaii that's in a wheelchair, and he just treats this dude like a normal fucking dude. And it's really cool. Like, he has these really good interactions with this guy. And at the end, this guy helps him out and everything. He meets him on the fucking airplane going over. He meets this dude.
Okay.
And this dude ends up helping him out. He comes back into the story later, and I won't spoil that part of it, but it's cool because like at the end, that guy, they finally have to split up because that guy has to go do whatever business that he's there in Hawaii for. But he just makes a comment like, you treat me like a normal person. Everybody else treats me like I'm in a wheelchair. And I thought that was really cool to put in this game. Like, I didn't expect that out of a Yakuza game where, I'm jumping on a fucking bicycle and delivering pizzas to people. So the mini games are wild. So there's a crazy taxi like mini game that I just spoke of there. That's like delivering pizza and burgers and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it gets wild, like to the point where you'll jump on the side of a building with your bike and just go up it.
Sure.
Like, it just gets ridiculous. My favorite minigame I've encountered so far is you can get on like those little trolleys, and go around the city on the trolley.
Okay.
But you meet a dude on there that's like a photographer, and he's photographing like perverts and trying to expose them. So it's literally like, and when I say perverts, it's like dudes in Speedos just like gyrating.
Yeah.
And so you take pictures
of enemy in that game.
Okay. And you just fucking take pictures of them. Like, you go around the city and you just have to take pictures of them. That's a mini game. It's pretty good. There's a ton of shit to do in that game. Like the other one, at least that I've played. I know people have talked about not caring for switching Kiryu's voice actor. I've seen a lot of him now. Obviously, he's in your party. So it's like right. You, him, and then two other people you meet. I don't have reverence for that character in the other games, so I can't say like if this guy's good or bad at voicing him. But I will say like he's not good at singing the karaoke. That's the one thing I will say. Like, I could just tell you that.
I wonder if it's him or if it's got to be else who the song.
It's got to be
okay.
But I'm just having a blast with it. It's a very great sequel to a game that already was great. And it continues, like, the changes they make to the combat and stuff are very smart and very well done. One of the things that's new in this game too, I don't think this was in the last one, like when you get above a certain level and there are lower level enemies, like groups of enemies on the streets, you can just run up to them, hit like for the control, I'm using left trigger and just wipe through the battle. Like, you don't have to fight it yourself.
Yeah,
it
just auto. You can't do that in the other one.
Okay, that's pretty cool. The new job classes are pretty cool. So they don't have hello work in Hawaii. Instead, it is a what is it? What would you call it? It's like a travel agency type thing, but they promote like different things you could do on the island. So, like, for example, one of the classes you can get is like a scuba diver type person. So you go scuba diving, and then now all of a sudden you're like a scuba diver and you attack people with a surfboard.
Okay,
that's a pretty good class. The girl that you have in your party, she can become a Hawaiian dancer. So you get like the little maracas, and so that's a class I have for that character right now. Cool. I've seen some of the other classes. I haven't unlocked them all because you have to go back and like pay money to do that specific activity, and then it unlocks that class. But it seems like anybody could use those classes. So there is one there is one class I saw that's like literally called Desperado, where you just use guns.
Okay.
And there is a gun shop too. So, which makes sense because you will fight enemies in that game that have guns.
Well, there's a guy in the first one that one of the guys uses guns too for some of his abilities.
And I'll say, like, the whole point of the whole point of the story is you have a very specific reason for why you go to Hawaii. That reason just gets more and more insane and mysterious as the game goes on.
That's how those games always go, though. They start with like what seems like
it won't really be a big deal.
Not a normal thing, but like something that's kind of weird, and you work towards it, and then it just like blows up.
Yeah,
in terms of like what's actually happening.
So my assumption, I've not played The Man Who Erased His Name, but my assumption is, I assume at the end of that game they tell you the reason for why that character, like, it's well known in the trailers that he has cancer. Like they said that in the trailer for this game. I assume they show you that at the end of that game because they do like a little flashback thing in this game.
Well, yeah, because that one is it takes place at the same time as the last one.
Okay, that makes so he was it's what that dude was off doing.
Yeah, it's in between it. Yeah.
Okay. So they explain exactly like what he did to get, like he did a very specific thing to get cancer. So, and they explain that. So, which is very helpful for someone who probably will never play that game. So,
well, that game just a bummer because it's digital only too.
Yeah. So, but Infinite Wealth, like I'm going to continue tracking with it. I hope to finish it. I want to finish the story before Rebirth here. I think it's possible.
You got 2 weeks.
I got 2 weeks. I really didn't mean to get as sucked into Middle Earth, but that's not going anywhere. So, but those are literally the only two things that I've played in the last 2 weeks, and most of my time has been Infinite Wealth. So I will kick it over to you, Dan.
Okay, so one of the biggest things is last time we recorded, Tekken 8 had just come out and I played like an hour.
Yeah.
I've played a ton of that now where, finished the story, done a lot of the character episodes, did the arcade thing. I said before, and like as a huge like Tekken fan and a fighting fan in general, like the game's incredible, but some reason it doesn't feel like there's enough in this game. I don't know why. I was talking to a friend of mine about it too, where he's like, man, the customization is really deep. And it's like, it seems shallow to me. Like, I don't even see that many options for everybody. And like, it's not that it takes long to unlock stuff because I have so much money in that game. I can unlock anything I want right away. But, part of that game is the customizing. And I don't feel like there's enough of that. The little arcade thing they tried to do was interesting, where basically you make like an avatar and there's a little story going on about how like you're going to an arcade and you're working your way through the arcade scene to be the best arcade fighter in the world.
Yeah.
It's a fun little thing that kind of gives it a purpose, and like you could also kind of look at it as like a tutorial because they'll give you little tips about how to do combos and all this kind of stuff.
Okay.
It's only like 4 hours long, maybe. Like it's not a substantial mode. Like there's more that could have been done here, and it's very bare bones. The story is fine. It's like the way the Mortal Kombat ones are built now, where you play through and every so often, every couple chapters, you switch off a guy and you play as somebody else and then do this. But like the game, like obviously it's been supernatural for a while because like the devil, Jin, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
it goes off
way into that direction
towards the end. The final fight of that game is like, this isn't really a spoiler because it's how that game works. It's like
a fighting game.
It's Jin versus Kazuya, and it's just you fight him like 5 times in a row.
Okay,
and it just keeps going, and it's like it's a little too much. And what's actually happening up until that point? Like Heihachi's disappeared, but then this other girl shows up and she fights strangely like him and all this kind of stuff. And who is she really? And then there's like a twisting at the end, and it's just, I'm not here for the story, but I expect something else out of the story. But the game plays incredible. It's so tight. Like all of the characters are good. I like that new character who plays kind of like Heihachi, the girl. Like she's really good too. It's the kind of thing where I'll keep picking it up and playing it off and on, and eventually when there's more characters I'll go back and play. But it is what it is.
We just need a DOA 7 now.
I don't think we'll ever get.
I don't think we'll ever get it.
I think
DOA 6 killed it.
I think you might get Dead or Alive. You won't get a 7.
Reboot. You think we get a reboot at this point?
If anything, it's probably that. The other thing I would hope for now that Tekken's out is I would hope for Soul Calibur 7 just because it feels
it seems like the time for that.
I don't think would ever fully ever go away. I don't think so either. It gets put on the shelf for a while.
Yeah.
I played the other hot release of the week, Foam Stars, for a couple hours.
Foamed it up. Yeah.
It's free. I might as well.
Is it just Splatoon?
No, it's not even Splatoon. It's worse.
Okay.
It's
worse. Jeez.
It's just it's not. I don't even know how to describe it. Like it is what you think it is. It is an arena based thing where you shoot foam instead of goo or ink or whatever, and it leads to a little bit different gameplay because like the foam can build, so like it can actually like go up and like there's mountains of foam, so there's like a verticality to it a little bit. Depending on the mode you play, and the modes rotate. Some are locked behind your level. It's typical kind of bullshit thing, but like the one major mode that was open the night we played was if you foam up the other person enough, you can then use your cool surfboard to kick them, and that's how you eliminate them. Because you can instead of being able to like swim through the foam, you surf on the foam. Get it? It is as close as it could be without being that game.
Yeah.
It's like the music is good, the character design is good. It controls well, all that stuff. Like it's just, I don't know.
Is that game free to play if you don't have Plus, or do you have to buy it?
Okay. Here's how I understand it. It's free for Plus people this month.
Yeah.
But I think it's supposed to be $30.
Ooh. Okay.
But let's talk about microtransactions because
it has to have those.
God, it has to have those. Unbelievable.
Okay.
Is it cosmetic based, or
it's mostly cosmetic stuff because all of the characters, like one has like a shotgun, one has a rifle. It's all kind of the same. We're talking cosmetic packs are $45.
Oh,
good Lord.
There's a character locked behind something that I forget how much that costs. There's the battle pass is weird because the battle pass is like $8. But the cosmetic packs are 30, 35, 40,
way
45. It's unbelievable. Who is paying for this?
The whales. I don't know if they're getting any whales for this game,
or people who are being sponsored to play this online.
Yeah, or something.
Who get it because like I think in all the matches we played, I only saw the character you had to pay for one time, which is weird because you cannot duplicate characters in a match.
Okay.
So if there's a character you like to play as and you get in a match and they're picked, too bad. You have to pick somebody else. That's a shitty way to have a game like this where the whole point of it is to be 4v4 and there's only 8 people.
Okay.
Like that's really stupid.
Yeah.
There is also like a wave-based mode, which is survival. So you can do PvE. Where basically you're defending a generator and then just waves of dudes come at you. That's kind of fun. It's a little early on. It's difficult because I think the point of it is to play it over and over again because the more you play it, the more like credits you earn to upgrade stuff to be able to play it better the next time. Yeah. That was okay. I wouldn't mind playing that a couple times, but they need different versions of that mode. It can't just be the same setup of defend this one thing every time. I will say the funniest part is if you fail that mode and they get to the generator and they blow it up, the thing goes off like a nuclear bomb. And it like foam shoots out. It covers everything because this whole thing is like Bath Vegas. Everything's,
okay.
There are soap and foam puns out the ass in this game to the point where it's just like, it is so ridiculous. They say stuff like unbelievable and stuff like that, like constantly.
Oh boy.
But like when the nuke goes off, like it shows all your characters basically dead, and it says something like the world is covered in foam, and like that's how it like fades out. And every time it ends, you have to watch the stupid cutscene. There's no skipping it. Load times of getting into games take forever. Like by forever, I mean like 2.5 or 3 minutes. That's too long. That's too long.
Yeah,
for a game that can be 10 minutes.
Yeah,
I don't get how this game will have any staying power, especially when people have to pay for it.
Yeah,
there will not be enough people playing this game because it is just, I
think that's why they
rip-off isn't the right word. Rip-off isn't the right word. It's a PAL world of Splatoon.
Okay,
where it is a copy and it's fine, but
I think they were smart in cutting the deal with Sony to put it on Plus because I think it would have been
no one would have played it. This reminds me of Destruction All Stars. Remember
There you
that
go.
game? That's what this game is.
Nobody would have bought
It's a copy of something else that no one would buy. They had to give it away for free, and then it eventually died. Foam Stars will be lucky to make it a year.
Yeah.
It will be lucky to make it that far.
We'll probably be seeing an article this time next year about how they're shutting the servers down.
Remember, it's a Square game. They'll kill it.
They'll kill it, yeah.
They remember that, like the Final Fantasy mobile game, they killed it immediately.
Yeah.
If this isn't making returns, if people aren't buying the $45 cosmetic packs, they'll kill it. They'll turn it off. So I played that. I did, despite me not really wanting to, I did play the Rebirth demo. I don't know why I did it.
How long is the Rebirth?
It's like 2 hours.
Okay. I don't need. I'm not going to play it because I'm just
Again, these aren't spoilers but this is basically you play the flashback sequence.
Okay.
Where he's in Calm and you're telling them about how you went home with Sephiroth and stuff.
All right.
It's cool to see. Like, obviously, it looks identical to the last one, especially if you played the PS5 version. It doesn't really look any different.
It doesn't.
This area that you do is not an open world area. It is much like the first game where you're on a path and you're kind of playing your way through something. It makes a little bit more sense anyway because it is a flashback and you're specifically supposed to do these tasks in his flashback. They do flesh out some more of it where you can kind of walk around and do stuff, but it's kind of the same stuff. Like you can go to Cloud's house and see his mom.
Cool. Okay.
You can go to Tifa's house. You can do all the same stuff at Tifa's house that you could do in the first one, including like going through her drawers and stuff and like her calling you out. It happens again. And they do the thing where like they call him out. So it's good. It's a cool, like, this is what this looks like in 2024 kind of a thing.
Absolutely.
Playing the piano is a cool little mini game.
I've seen a lot of.
It's a little complicated, but it's very cool. Once you get used to how it works, it's good. You get to play as Cloud and Sephiroth, and they kind of there's more to the path up to the reactor, and it kind of. I don't think this area necessarily is meant to teach you this, but in the tutorial it is where like you can climb up things. You can like vault over stuff now. You can interact with things differently, which is nice because you couldn't do that in the first game.
That's cool.
Like they show off like the dual attacks because Cloud and Sephiroth have one, which is pretty cool.
The combat probably hasn't changed that much.
No, it's pretty much it didn't feel any different to me. And this is coming from someone who just finished the hard mode version of the last one last month. So it's the same, which is fine. I don't want it to be different.
It doesn't need to be different.
There were a couple new different materia types that I got, which were cool, where depending on how you link them to other stuff, it can do different things. That's neat. It did the Shinra Mansion thing, and that's a little more fleshed out too, where it's not just like run in and go here. There's kind of you can poke around.
No, that's fine.
It's cool. And then like when you beat that, like obviously like they show you the trailer again, and then the second part of the demo is going to unlock.
There's another part.
It's got to be like next week. The Junon stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
It's got to be. It's got to be next week because the game comes out in 2.5 weeks. But so that's pretty cool. You have to beat the demo to be able to do that part, which is neat. I didn't necessarily want to play it, but it was just sitting there. And when I saw it was only 2 hours, I was like, let's just do it.
Yeah, I read that the full game installs like 150 gigs.
It's got to be, right?
Well, remember, it's on 2 discs. So.
Well, on 2 discs. I wonder if you have to. Do you suppose you have to install both discs?
I would assume so because it'll be.
I think that's what it is.
It'll be like Cyberpunk. So Cyberpunk, I don't know what Cyberpunk was like on PS5, but on Xbox it's 2 discs.
It's only one on PlayStation.
Okay, and you have to install disc 1. Basically, what it does is you install disc 1, and then it tells you like, please insert disc 2. It installs
I don't remember.
And then it'll tell you, please insert disc 1 to play. So
okay, yeah, I assume that's what this will be like.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. I'm and just more excited for it, just because. It is.
I watched like the one short, like 1 minute hype trailer that came out of that 20-minute
state of play,
and I was good. I'm be ready in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and then the only other major thing I did is, and I told you this, I wanted to give you another Dead Island update because we're plowing through. I've seen parts of that game you've never seen before. Let me tell you, like you thought as you were someone who never really got past like the city part, it gets hell of a lot.
I don't
worse.
think so.
It's so bad. It is a terrible.
I never
game.
finished it.
No, it's bad. Once you get past that part, the city's bad. The sewers after it's even worse. Now we're in this like jungle area, which is even worse. I think we got
to the sewers. I don't think we beat the sewers.
Sewers is bad. We're in this like jungle laboratory area, which is awful. But the main thing, the coolest thing happened was, so there's 3 of us that are playing, but you need trophies where like you play with other people for 15 minutes, right? So we leave it open to let other people jump in. And this guy jumped in and hoping they'll stay for 15 minutes. This guy jumped in. He's hanging around with us, and then he just starts dropping weapons on the ground for us. We're like, okay, cool. They're all hacked weapons. They're all level 1, incredibly high damage. We're talking like 150,000 damage in when a normal weapon does 150. One of the guns he dropped for me was that I got was the mounted Gatling gun in the game, but you can just carry it around, and it has 1 billion ammo.
That's great.
It's crazy. Like that gun also has like shock and knockback.
So now you should be able to just fly through.
Now we're just running through the game. He also dropped like 100 med kits that we got to pick up and split. A whole bunch of other stuff. And then after when 15 minutes hit, he left.
That's
like,
good.
The Angel of Dead Island.
I was going to say you're sure him as the giver.
Yes. The legend of Dead Island himself.
That's good.
It's cool. So like the guns are obviously going to make whatever's left of this game a breeze. And then just like it's tackling really stupid trophies where it's like kill 5 things in a row in one hit. So you can't really control it. It's just like it's going to happen.
Yeah,
it's not.
For sure.
But that was a really good laugh where he just starts dropping these yellow weapons, which is like the highest thing in the game, and they're level 1, essentially infinite damage and infinite ammo. And then he just bounced. So it's not even like these were duped items; these were hacked duped items. I don't even know how that happens on a PlayStation. But whatever.
That's wild.
It's great. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
I mean, it's a PS4 game, right? So he could be on a hacked PS4.
Oh, easily. That's the only way it could have been done.
So,
but to take the time to hack weapons into Dead Island is dedication.
He likes Dead Island. I don't know what to say.
I mean, if he's still playing it now, giving them away.
There is like a group of people that have like an absurd admiration for that original Dead Island game.
Any given night when we play, and we just kind of play randomly, there's always at least 3 or 4 other games going.
I'm not surprised.
Where the thing is like you can only join games in the story that are like close to where you are.
Okay.
Because it has a very bad syncing issue with like quests and stuff. Yeah, how bizarre. Well, not to mention that
I remember that's one of the reasons why we stopped playing the game is because we had a friend who tends to, you get done for the night, you log off, and that friend will go, fuck it, and just go a lot further. Yeah. And it doesn't work in Dead Island that way. No, so that was one of the things that killed our mood on that game.
It gives you a warning where it's like you're not synced anymore, like progress won't work. So we have to be very careful about like...
Because I want to say we already were not enjoying the game, and then when we found that out, it was just like, I don't even care anymore. We moved on to the next thing.
You have to be extremely careful when you're playing by yourself offline, where like the only thing you really should do is like kills. Like you can
I also think like that game is constantly on sale for like $2-3.
That's what we
people probably buy it all the time.
Yeah. But yeah, there's always at least 3 to 4 games going. Which is funny just because it's an old, not good. It's not a good game. It's just not. Maybe it was 12 years ago. It is not now.
I didn't like it 12 years ago.
I liked the same thing we talk about. The first quarter of that game is good.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
Anything else that wraps up what you've been playing?
That's the only major stuff I've played, and then just killing more time till Rebirth.
What about you, Matt?
So I played more Pal World. I have gotten to the point now where you can like incubate eggs that you find.
Okay.
So it like opens up to other pals that you don't have. I defeated 2 boss pals in a way. They weren't, I mean, I was able to like, I guess you can say kind of break the way the game was playing. The first pal I fought was like an electrified big ass Pikachu type dude. And he was like, just like killing all of my pals. And I tucked myself behind like a column, and homeboy was like stuck in like this little corner, So thankfully, my pal just started wailing on him, and I was able to kill him. The second one I had to actually fight, but it wasn't too crazy. You really have to stick to your levels on that game. So like, if anything is, let's say if you're a level 10 and it's a level 13, just avoid it. Like, don't try to jump it.
It's that tight of a level thing. Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's tight. Like, all of my pals right now are like a 13, 14, and I went up against one that was like an 18. Okay. And homeboy, just him and his other friend just like waxed us. And I was like, well, that's not something I want to keep fucking around with. I got to the point where you can also like, they have workbenches where you can like craft stuff. So I was able to start crafting stuff for my pals. So now I've got like harnesses where I can ride a couple of them around.
That's cool.
One of my pals has a submachine gun now.
All right.
Of course. Yeah.
Homeboy jumps up on my head and we just walk around and he's like just submachine gunning people.
That's cool.
It's a lot of fun. Not gonna lie. It's pretty entertaining. I've been trying to just do a lot more exploring. Like just trying to get the map more open so I can then have access to everything. So I really haven't been doing much catching or anything, but I enjoy it. It's pretty solid. I think the max you can level out is level 50, I think right now. So I haven't...
I'm sure they'll increase that down the road. But...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they will too. I've been able to now, like, it took me a minute to get it together, but like all of your pals have like special techniques. Like some of them are good at farming. Some of them are good at like stonework, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it took me a second to finally figure out what the system and the codes were to get them to do specific things. But now, once I finally figured that out, I've got two of my pals who constantly farm and one that constantly does like wood and stone. So it makes farming a lot more smoother in that game than anything else. All in all, look, man, it's a fun game. It's not bad. It's not crazy. It's a lot of fun so far. I'm gonna try and dive more into the like, I guess you could say technically the campaign. I haven't played online because I don't have anybody else to really play with.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume it has like full co-op.
Yeah, like I've been watching videos of people online, and they like they go into the worlds that their friends are in and all the stuff they've built up and stuff like that.
That's kind of cool.
So it's pretty cool to see. That's what I played. I started playing Warzone. I got away from Apex because I was like, I think I just need a mental break from that game. And I was like, but I really still want to play something. And so I picked that up. And I have to say, again, I'm playing solo. I'm playing by myself. But it's gotten better.
Okay.
Not bad. Not crazy. You get jumped a whole hell of a lot in that game. So it's like, it's a lot of just like paying attention to your surroundings and stuff like that. And then to yesterday,
I was going to say, tell me about this last one.
Yesterday, me and a friend were talking, and we wanted to play a game together. And he was like, Helldivers looks pretty cool. And I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. And I downloaded it last night. I didn't get to play any last night, but I started playing some this morning.
Okay.
Honestly, if you like the movie Starship Troopers, you are going to love
Starship Troopers.
This fucking game.
I played the first Helldivers, to be fair, and I liked it, but this is a lot different.
It's a different game.
The first one.
It's a very, yeah. So I can say I like aspects of it. The bugs overtake you really quick. Like you've got to be on your P's and Q's with like reloads and stuff like that, or else you just get swarmed. And being that you're like I'm only a level 2 right now. Like I maybe put in like an hour this morning, but each like there are the little bugs, the big bugs. You have like special abilities you can utilize in the game.
Okay.
So they're called stratums, I believe is what they refer to.
Okay.
And it's like I'm playing on controller on my PC. So like if you hold down your left bumper, it opens up a window.
Okay.
And you have to like push the correct code. And by code, I mean like up, down, left, right.
Okay.
Type of code. And it unlocks that ability and allows you to like utilize it. So
all right.
like right now I have the ability to bring in a reinforcement. So a teammate. Whether that be the person you're playing with, like if they die, you can bring them back.
Okay.
Or if you're like in a campaign and you want another person, like the computer generates somebody for you. You get a machine gun that can get sent to you, dropped to you. You get like supply kits that can get dropped to you. The big thing is like a satellite death ray type missile that gets sent to you if you throw it in the right spot. It's pretty intense, and at a $40 price tag, like
it's only $40. I know that.
I'm not mad at the purchase of it. Like it plays real well. I had a problem this morning getting into the servers.
I've read there's been some server issues, but I think a lot of it has to do with like this game has gone over really well, and I don't think they expected it to be as big of a release as it has been.
No,
and a lot of that seems to have to be with it being on Steam the same day as PS5.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Which Sony doesn't. Sony doesn't have like a real big history of doing day and date releases on Steam.
It's almost never.
I was actually kind of shocked, and I was shocked more that it was crossplay because I bought it on my PC and my friend has it on his PS5.
On his PS5? Okay.
Yeah, but like we played seamlessly well. Like there was no problems when we got.
How big is a group of people like for co-op? Like what's a squad size? It's like 4, 8. Like how many people are in a group?
I don't know.
That game. Okay.
The most that I have is 2.
Okay.
Just because it was just me and him.
Sure.
And like when you're playing by yourself, you can only have 1 reinforcement, I believe.
Okay.
But again, I've only played an hour max out. Probably the next time we record, I'll be further into it so I can explain a little bit more. But literally, if you really enjoyed the movie Starship Troopers,
that's me.
You will literally
I love that movie.
Love this game. I mean, seriously, like you get a ship. Once you pick a spot on the world that you want to drop to, you get in this little pod and it just shoots you out like a fucking cannon. You just drop down and you literally just start killing bugs. Like that is it.
Okay.
The campaign, you have missions that you need to do. And once you complete the missions and you extract yourself out, you beaten it and you move on. But you can also like, after you complete the missions, even if you don't get yourself extracted out, you still get points for completing the missions. You just don't get the extra points for extracting yourself. All in all, though, like for $40, I'm not mad at this purchase at all. It's a lot of fun. I am excited to tackle some more of it throughout the week. And like I said, hopefully maybe when we record next time, I can have more information on it because I mean, dude, I was really hyped when we got in. I didn't know what the monsters were. Like, I'd seen a couple of clips of bugs and stuff.
They don't really show too much of that in the trailers.
Yeah. And I will say one thing that is pretty wicked is when I was talking about reload, like, most of the time when you reload a gun in any game, it really it pretty much takes away from what ammo you have and it automatically clips it.
Yeah.
In this one, you lose whatever ammo you reload with on accident. So, like, if you're like shooting and you accidentally hit reload at that half clip is gone. Okay. So you only have like a total of. So it kind of has like
a punishment system, kind of like in, for example, like Gears of War. If you don't do your active reload correctly, you'll jam your gun.
Exactly, kind of in a way like that. Yeah. So like I said, you really have to pay attention to your reloads, and then you have to pay attention to when you're actually shooting. So like, it can be kind of overwhelming. So because if you're using your assault rifle and you try to like reload, but you have a swarm coming at you, so then you shift to your pistol and you clear people, you have to go back and reload your assault rifle, or else you're screwed. You're pretty much screwed. But all in all, like I said, it's a fun game for $40. If you're down to kill bugs, do it. I really say gun ho, go in on it.
Yeah, I've been looking at it. No, I've been looking at it this weekend, and as it kept blowing up, because originally I was like, I don't think it's going to be that big of a release, because the first one was kind of a very niche thing.
Yeah.
But like the people that like the original game really like the original game. So I just didn't expect it to be this big of a deal.
And I felt like the original Helldivers had like a certain, group of people that really just liked it. And you know what I mean? And that's why they decided to make a second one. But this second one was, I didn't play the first one, but it's a lot of fun in the second one. So, I mean, give it a shot. Give it an opportunity if you get the option to. So that's it for me.
That's it for you. All right. Well, we can jump into the news. We'll start. So it's going to be a little different this time because we got a lot of emails surrounding this specific news story. So what I'm going to do to handle all this, and this is probably going to be where most of this podcast takes place this week, is I will address what it is. I'm going to read the emails, and then we can talk about the news story in general. I'll run down exactly what's going on.
Yeah, it's all kind of the same thing.
Because and I'll recap what I'll do. Let me recap it first, because I think one thing that people get wrong is where it began. Most people are going with, well, it began when they started talking about Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah,
it's this whole thing started earlier. So basically, long story short, there's a lot of compelling evidence that Microsoft might be getting out of. They might be moving away from the Xbox brand.
From consoles.
It's possible they might just rebrand everything as Microsoft Game Pass. I've seen some things going around that might be the case.
Okay.
But this whole thing started back in December with Blade is where it really started, because what happened was we got the Game Awards. We got that trailer for Blade. Blade didn't have an Xbox logo at the end of it. And that was the first instance of people raising the stink at something that should have been celebrated. Like, hey, cool, we're getting a fucking Blade game.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool. But instead, that whole conversation was, well, is this game exclusive or not? And nobody will come out and say anything, so we don't know. I mean, you would think it's an arcade game.
It should be, because it's Arcane.
It's Arcane, which is owned by Bethesda, which is owned by Microsoft. Right. So you would think it would be exclusive, but that's where the conversation kind of began. And then towards the end of January, we started getting rumors it was Hi-Fi Rush is going to come to Switch. Fine. Nobody really cares that much about that game because it's low risk.
Well,
for
the
them
other
to
thing
do
too
that.
is like, that is a game that is, it's a niche game.
It's been out for a year.
Yeah.
It's also the kind of thing where it's kind of quote unquote made the money it's going to make.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can put it on something else, why don't we just do it?
It'll sell on Switch.
Yeah, sure.
There's an audience for it. Then it became Sea of Thieves, which Sea of Thieves, again, 6-year-old live service game. I can't imagine you can build a bigger audience at this point than what they already have where it is.
The goal of that game is to get people playing it.
And there is a very big argument that a lot of people on PlayStation would definitely check out that game if it came to PlayStation.
Sure.
And again, it's 6 years old at this point. So nobody's really batting an eye at Sea of Thieves either. But then we start getting, well, maybe Starfield is going to come to PS5. And that starts ruffling people's feathers, because there is a core group of people that went out and bought a Series X or S to play Starfield. Like, that did happen. Yeah. It's a minority, but that did happen. And then it becomes, well, maybe this Indiana Jones game is going to come to PlayStation as well.
And that's like the big one. That's like whoa kind of thing.
That's like the big, like, okay, people are really kind of up in arms. And then now it's snowballed into like, well, maybe it's just everything.
Maybe
where I
it's
think
Gears of War.
Maybe it's Gears. Maybe it's Halo. Maybe it's Forza. And I think that's where it's gotten out of control. Yeah. And I think a lot of it has become a very bad game of telephone.
Part of the problem for this is like you've got 5 different sources reporting different parts of this.
Exactly. And it does not help that the only official response we've had thus far comes from Phil Spencer, where he basically just said, we're listening. We were already planning a business event for next week talking about the future of Xbox. We'll talk about it next week. That was on Monday last week. That is the only official thing that has been said by anyone at Microsoft in a week.
Why don't you read these emails?
So I'm going to read the emails and we'll go on. So let me go off here. Jim from Nashville, Tennessee. Howdy, bros. I had to write in because what the fuck is going on at Xbox? Seriously, man, this is the worst shit they've done now, even surpassing the bullshit from a decade ago. The brand is legit in the toilet at this point, and all Phil can do is come out and say, we'll talk about it later. What kind of bullshit is that, man? I've been with the Xbox since the 360 days and even weathered out the Xbox One storm and overall enjoyed that system, but this is just completely trash, man. What do you all think of this bullshit? Got Adam from Grandview, Missouri. Hey, gents, this Xbox news, right? I mean, to do this in the middle of a console generation, to seemingly give up, like, sure, we don't know the whole story, but the fact that they are already rebranding Game Pass as Microsoft Game Pass instead of Xbox Game Pass speaks volumes, along with Phil Spencer's tweet that they'll talk about it next week. That doesn't deny anything. In fact, it seemingly confirms it. I just am concerned, man. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with my decade plus digital purchases if this shit goes down the drain. And if they just go and becoming a streaming service instead, man, nobody wants that. Fuck, this sucks. We have Harry from Rochester, Minnesota. What up, dudes? Quick question on the Xbox situation, and I'm sure you guys will get a lot of emails on it this week. What do you think happens if all these games go third party? Do you think Microsoft will just continue to throw everything on PlayStation, or do you think they go the route of keeping things timed exclusive to Game Pass first and then go to multi-platform? Do you think there's any middle ground that will make Xbox fans happy in this situation? So,
all right. Let's say one thing first.
Sure.
Okay. The thing about Phil coming out with the tweet saying, we're going to talk about it next week. I think some people are reading into that as like, that confirms it. That means it's happening.
Right.
What it really means is whatever the hell rumors or leaks or whatever part of this is true, it isn't true, that's going on, they have to take some time to get together. And whatever they say in this thing next week has to be correct. It
Crystal
has to
clear.
be crystal fucking clear. And it cannot leave any like ambiguity out there. So him not saying anything the next day is a smarter move, because he can't come out and just be like, no, that all of that's a lie. We're still making consoles, and put a thumb up emoji after it. Because everybody's like, well, what the fuck does that mean? Does that mean that you're making consoles, but you're putting the games up? No, they have to come out and be like, look, there's a lot of shit going around. They have to just tell it straight and say exactly what it is. And if it is in November, it's a digital console, and we're putting in Microsoft Game Pass will be available on PlayStation and Switch, then that's what they have to say. There can't be a middle area, and there can't be a, well, we'll tell you more in 3 months. There cannot be that, because then it just makes things worse.
I mean, there's no way that Game Pass is going to be on Switch or PlayStation, like, at this point.
But it depends on...
Sony won't allow it.
Well, how do we want to talk about it? We want to talk about this as like, is this happening kind of a thing? Like, what if this does happen? Or do we think it's happening? Or do we think what's happening? Because those are two different things.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can go down what I think is happening. So the other thing I'll throw out here, and I think I even linked it in here with our news stuff, is like, there is a very credible source that has this past weekend that has posted two different articles, and it's Tom Warren from where I forget where he's from, but a very credible source, very close to Microsoft. First thing he has said is that Microsoft themselves are very surprised at the extent of the rumors. And I think that goes back to what I just said, which is I think this is snowballed out of control. Sure. And I think it boiled over so much last Sunday that he was forced to say something, because I don't think they would have said anything. I think they would have just had whatever this business update is, but because it got so extreme, and then when you have literally every single game news outlet publishing articles about it,
sure,
you kind of have to say something at that point.
But here, quick, historically in video games industry, rumors start somewhere for a reason.
They do.
More often than not, there's at least like part of it. It might, maybe not the whole thing's true, but like part of it's true. So, because going back to the beginning with like the Blade thing, is that on everything? Probably. Because remember, Arcane, the Deathloop stuff was super fucking weird.
It was.
So like Arcane maybe is like an outlier where that doesn't count anyway. The Hi-Fi Rush and the Sea of Things seems real because those are two games that probably don't actively care about as much anymore. But by the time this thing ended and they're talking about like fucking Gears of War, it's like
that's where I don't.
We're barely even talking about Gears of War being on Xbox for right now. For Christ's sake, why are we talking about that being on PlayStation?
We haven't seen the new Gears in 5 years,
right? But
we go. Here's what I think. Here's what I think that's going to happen. I think it's gone too extreme. I don't think that the core pillar franchises like Halo, Gears, Forza, I don't think those are going multi-platform right now. I think they think it's too much. Could that happen in the future? Absolutely. And I think the time that happens is when you do get to the point that you see Game Pass on PlayStation or you see Game Pass on Switch. I don't think it's ever going to get to the point where they're just selling Halo Infinite on PlayStation. Not until Game Pass is there. Yeah. But I do think that indie, I think Starfield, I think those are real. I think going forward, right? I think going forward, a lot of these things that we thought, up until they bought Activision, they're going to lock all this shit down. I think what happened is they got Activision. I think the guy above Phil Spencer, Satya, the CEO of Microsoft, I think he went to accounting, had them run the numbers, and they told him, hey, look, this is what Xbox's division is making now, going the route you're going. This is what it could be making if you start putting these things multi-platform. And I'm talking about like Elder Scrolls 6. That will probably be multi-platform. But what I think they will do is I think they will do a timed exclusivity thing. Because at the end of the day, they want you to get on Game Pass.
Sure. But that goes to, are we still making consoles? And the thing about this, are we still making consoles thing? Because the leak showed us there's a digital one coming.
We know that there's a digital console in September, I think. That's
probably not going to be scrapped, right?
No.
And not at this point. It's too late for that.
And I'll say from what we saw, like design-wise, it really doesn't look like there's going to be an add-on for a disc drive.
I don't
like the PS5.
I don't think so. I think 2024 is finally the year where Microsoft especially.
And the other thing you have to remember is the layoffs they just had, which I have that in here. We didn't talk about the 1,900 layoffs. They laid off their physical media department for Xbox. But those people are gone.
And while you and I and Matt, we all lament the death of physical media, I'm also a realist and I understand where the world is and where it's going. Like those are production costs. That's all kinds of other things that they pay for that they don't have to pay for.
Well, and now, 10 years ago, it made a lot of sense not to go that route. Whereas now they have a decade of data showing the direction the digital marketplace is going, which is outselling physical media like 2-1. So why wouldn't you?
Yeah, people are pre-ordering stuff to have it on digitally, to have it unlock at a time.
I do think at this business event, I think that is where they are going to say, like, going forward, this is going to be a digital platform. I do think they're going to mention that at this point, because again, they just let go of that department. We know that the Series X is going to be a digital. I mean, they're going to replace the current Series X with this reboot or refresh of it in September.
Right.
That's the point of it.
It's time to do that. And the thing is it's time to get out far in advance to tell people that you're doing this.
The other thing that's credible is there's been a lot, I'm sure you've seen it too on Reddit, like there's a lot of screenshots going around from GameStops where there's just lists of games that were planned to come physical for Xbox Series X that have been canceled.
Yep.
For the next like 4 or 5 months, like 4 or 5 months out, these games are getting canceled physical releases. Right. So like that tells you that it's time. That's what's happening. So, and again, well, none of us like it. I understand that's the direction that we're going in. And I just think they're doing that part of it at the weirdest fucking time, like a middle of a console generation to make that stance is weird.
Sure. But Microsoft of all the companies is the one that is kind of
can do it.
Well, they're also the one that like doesn't really give a shit about console generations anymore.
No, they don't anymore.
Yeah. That's not what they're making, especially since they're trying to make everything streaming. If you're trying to make it all stream, then your console, quote unquote, doesn't matter as long as it's got a good enough internet connection.
Yeah.
Like Starfield, the Starfield one. for all intents and purposes, that game bombed. Like, it's a Bethesda game that people talked about for 2 weeks, and it kind of disappeared. So for it to come out a year later on PlayStation when the expansion comes out makes sense.
In a Game of the Year edition, or whatever they call it.
Complete edition, whatever. That is appropriate, and that's how it should be done. The Indiana Jones thing, I can't see that being on both the same day.
No.
That automatically takes away anybody who might consider buying a system for that, even though there's not that many people.
For big games like Indiana Jones or whenever the next Elder Scrolls comes out, I think you see a year.
I was going to say 6 months, but
you think 6 months? Yeah. I think a year for something that big. I think it's going to vary depending on what the game is.
Yeah, I think.
But I think something that big, they're going to go, okay, and they won't tell you up front either. They'll just say down the road, this will come to other platforms.
Yeah,
but for now, day and date, you want to play Indiana Jones day one, get Game Pass.
Right.
Or buy it digitally on your Xbox.
I think, well, and the other thing is like people are so concerned about if Xbox puts all this stuff on there. Like, I think part of any Xbox game going to PlayStation, they would have to go to Sony and be like, we'll do this. You know, obviously you'll make money off of this, whatever. But like, no more of this like cross-play bullshit from Sony.
Oh, no.
Because they're like the one company that like is still somehow against it, even though they pretend like they're not.
For sure.
But if we're going to do it, does it make more sense for it to be like Microsoft Game Pass app on PlayStation and you log into the app and you just play games through the app and stream it all that way? I think well, that way they have control over it because you have to log into their thing to access stuff.
For sure.
And then somehow Sony gets a cut on how many hours people play Microsoft Game Pass app on their system. You know what I mean? Like something weird like that. But it's, well, and the thing too is like if Indiana Jones is going to come to PlayStation in 6 months or a year, they're not making a physical copy of that either. Sorry to tell you. Like anything owned by Microsoft at this point aren't physical copies anymore. So
I also think that when we get to the next generation, like PS6, I don't think PS6 will be a physical disc system either, though.
Probably not. They're already halfway there with this PS5 where
the difference is they're not going to say that right now because there's no reason for them to say that right now.
They won't say it.
They will just say that when they announce the system. Yeah, exactly. So, but this whole thing, like, I also I don't think you're going to see Game Pass on another like a Nintendo platform or Sony platform this generation. It's too soon. I think I think maybe next generation, but again, Sony, there's too much red tape for them to cut through to get to that point.
I mean, all in all,
the only thing that Sony has going for them is that Jim Ryan is no longer there. So if Jim Ryan was there, I would tell you, hell no, there's no way. But I think it's too soon. And I don't think that's what they're coming out to talk about next week either. I really think they're going to lean in on, hey, the digital age is here. They might even, they might even show that digital system at its official capacity next week, the Series X. I could see that.
I don't think there's a physical model being showed off. I think because the thing is like, this isn't a developer
it's not an
direct.
Xbox
it's
event.
Not an Expo thing.
It's a Microsoft.
This
event.
is a Microsoft business event.
This is like an earnings call.
This is to tell everyone this is the plan.
Yeah.
And a lot of you aren't going to like the plan. A lot of people already don't like the plan. But a lot of people like I see a world where all of these Xbox games that we thought were exclusives are on PlayStation. How that is and the time frame of that is up in the air. But
yeah.
But flagship stuff like Halo, I don't necessarily think is true.
I don't think that at least now, I don't think Halo, Gears, or Forza. I don't think those are coming to PlayStation right now.
Things that are coming.
Things that are new.
Right.
You think if Perfect Dark ever comes out, that'll be on PS5.
I think that game's dead.
I think Perfect Dark's dead. I think that Initiative studio is dead.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody there. I think that was all a lie.
Especially if we're shutting down the physical department and we're closing ranks on other stuff and we just merged all this other stuff and we let go of people and Activision, like other stuff has to get cut. And I think Perfect Dark is on the list of stuff to get cut.
Well, and the other thing the other thing that came out with like they're surprised about the extent of the rumors is that apparently that like Phil Spencer held some like internal meeting where they did say they're not abandoning the console market.
Well,
and I don't think they ever are going to abandon it.
I think some people are taking it out of proportion too, where they think that if this happens, like if we put stuff on PlayStation, that it's like not going to be on Xbox and they're not going to support the system you already have. And they're not going to like flip a switch and turn off all the stuff you own.
Right.
They're going to continue to support what exists. It's just what they produce in the future is going to be different.
Yeah.
Because they don't necessarily, in 10 years, they don't necessarily have to make consoles if your TV can stream everything. They don't have
there already TVs you can buy that have Game Pass built in.
I've told you this. Like when they were advertising Starfield before it came out, they did a Conan O'Brien thing with that Clueless Gamer thing where they just put it on a Samsung TV with a controller. That's how they showed that game off. And obviously that's heavily edited, but it worked.
Well, but yeah, I mean, we've known for a while it's going to go that route, at least with Microsoft. So, I mean, I told you, I think at the top of the last episode that we recorded, like I made the decision at the beginning of this year, anything I get on the Xbox is just a digital purchase at this point because there's no reason.
Well, if I were to get one, which who knows now, I'll have to see.
I would wait and see.
I would only get a digital one at this point because it would just be a Game Pass box.
Yeah,
exactly.
So there's no reason to.
It's a wild thing that started with some believable elements and then just grew and grew and grew and got super weird. And now we have to see what it is. I really hope they're not vague about it.
Well, the other thing I'll put out there, because I had somebody, one of the YouTube videos that I post, because I put 2 videos out on this, somebody got mad about, buying a Series X or Series S, whatever, to play Starfield. And my answer to that is Resident Evil Code Veronica. I bought a Dreamcast to play that game.
People buy systems for certain things. It's a fact.
And what happened a month after I bought that Dreamcast? So I did not buy a Dreamcast. I didn't even buy a Dreamcast when Code Veronica came out. It was significantly after. But what happened a month after that? Hey, it's coming to PS2.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to buy a Dreamcast. But you know what? That was a hell of a system. I had a lot of fun with that system and still do. So, but again, like I understand it. I understand from the aspect that people are upset and frustrated because they think that their digital library and stuff is going to be lost. We don't even know anything about that part of the planet, and they're not going to just all of a sudden shut it down tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, they're not walking away from this business. Like,
not after they just spent that much money on Activision.
Even if they, like, and that's the other thing I said, like, even with them being in third place, they still make an insane amount of money.
Well, and they have the backing of Microsoft.
Exactly.
Which is the second $3 trillion company ever. I think they're okay.
Exactly. Isn't Apple the first?
Yeah. Okay. They go back and forth.
Jesus. That makes sense.
It's just, it's a wild thing. And, especially with digital stuff, we live in an era where things change daily.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like tomorrow, something else could happen, and the next day, something else.
Well, and the funny thing for me is, like, I go through phases where it's like, okay, I'm playing a lot of stuff on this system right now. I happen to be getting it ready to the point now where a lot of the things I'm going to be playing are going to be, it's probably going to be PS5 for the next couple of months for me, because I have Rebirth, Dragon's Dogma, I'm going to play on PS5, and Stellar Blade, which is at the end of April, which we'll be talking about that in a minute, because we also have a state of play to talk about.
Woohoo.
But yeah, we'll see. I'm really surprised. Yeah, Friday we didn't get that like 4 p.m. last employee out the door quick memo. Hey, it's going to be next week, this day and this time. I'm really surprised they have not said when it's going to be yet.
Yeah,
but I imagine you probably get that Monday. So, hey, it's happening tomorrow at this time. So
yeah, could be.
It's a little surprising, but I think a lot of it is they're still just kind of getting all their ducks in a row for it. So,
like I said, they have to get it right. So
they have to get it right. In conjunction with that, so I did say, like, they laid off 1,900 employees, and that was abroad. So that was across Microsoft and across Activision and Blizzard after that deal. That's what happens after acquisitions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like they reevaluate, they cut the fat, so to speak. And now the FTC is complaining that they are violating the contract because they laid off this many people, which is just another last ditch attempt at the FTC to try and save face for losing that battle.
Well,
that's what it is.
They're saying that they went against what they agreed to in the contract and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, look at all of the other gaming layoffs that have happened just in this year.
It's
like over 6,000 people already.
It's a ridiculous amount.
And we're halfway through February. So
more and more, like every day I see that happen, and the more and more I think about, like, man, I'm glad I did not go down that path as a kid. Because as a kid, I was like, man, I really want to get into that and be like a games journalist or something. And boy, I'm glad I didn't do that.
Nope. It's wild.
The new Deus Ex game was canceled thanks to more Embracer layoffs. I believe that voice actor that plays Adam Jensen came out and kind of just was, I mean, basically it was sad because that's probably the end of that character, at least for right now.
This version of it, yeah.
It is a bummer that they canceled what was going to be a new one, because I don't think the last one was a bad game. So I don't think it was as good as what was the 2011 one. I always forget what the
Human Revolution, I think.
Human Revolution was 2011, and then I forget what the 2016
Altered Mankind, something like that.
Something Mankind Divided.
That's it.
There you go. Yeah.
Altered Edition,
again,
I think is what it was.
Mankind Divided was not a bad game, but it was not as good as Human Revolution. But I would have gladly taken another game in that universe. So that's a bummer. Let's talk about another piece of outrage news this week. This happened before all the Microsoft stuff. And we got an email about this too that I want to read first. But this has to do with the Suicide Squad game.
Oh boy.
How much of the Suicide Squad game have you seen, Dan? Like, have you watched any streams of it?
Couple hours of it.
Couple hours. Okay.
Just to see mission structure and stuff like that.
I made a video on this too. Brian from New York. Hi, dudes. Love the podcast. What's up with this Suicide Squad game? How shit is this tribute to Kevin Conroy? I went from already having little interest in playing the game to straight up not wanting anything to do with it. The whole handling of this just seems gross. I also wanted to throw this in there. A few episodes ago, you guys talked about Sweet Baby Inc. and the impact that DEI company has had on the games industry. Really seems like they have had a huge hand in this game and also desexualizing Harley Quinn. I want to commend you guys for even talking about Sweet Baby, because it seems like the main game industry is afraid to. Also makes you wonder if they had a hand in the story elements and how this tribute was handled. Anyways, thanks for taking my email. I mean, I will say Harley Quinn does look uglier in this game.
It's just, the thing about it is weird is she doesn't look the same as the game she was in years ago.
Yeah. I was surprised that it's still Tara Strong, because I think her voice sounds radically different from the little bit I've seen of the game.
She sounds different lately, just in general.
So, anyways, fans are outraged at the Batman scene in this game because they fucking kill him. Okay, spoiler.
Well, they kill everybody.
They kill everybody. The game is literally called Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League.
Yeah, it was spoiled a while ago.
I mean, they shoot him. Harley shoots him in the head with a gun, and that's the end of him. Doesn't Captain Boomerang piss on the Flash?
Pretty sure that's the thing that happens. They cut his finger off at one point. And
again, like, of all the things to be upset about at this game, I feel like that's the dumbest thing to be upset about. They made good on what the title of the game is.
It felt like that was the point. And if you didn't,
it feels like that's the point.
If you didn't kill them and the whole thing was a cop out where you just captured him, then why call it that?
There is also an Easter egg that has popped up in the game that seemingly confirms that Batman's probably not dead. Which, what a shocker!
Well, the whole thing was maybe these are just clones or something. Which I mean, sure. It's a comic book thing. They can write it however they want. It doesn't really matter.
Right. Exactly. So I mean, I did a whole video on it, and my big thing and my big takeaway from it is, like, look, Batman has died so many times in the comics. I watched him literally travel through time to come back.
Yeah.
Like, which is a great story.
Every superhero dies.
Every superhero dies and comes back.
There's
Superman,
there's a Super Nintendo game called The Death of Superman. So
yeah. That part of it, I don't find that offensive. What is a bummer is, like, could they have, it's unfortunate. Could they have done more with Kevin Conroy? I don't know what the extent of how much voice work they had done with him before he passed.
Sure,
I have no idea. So I'm sure they probably wanted to do a bigger tribute to him in this game, but it probably was very hard for them to do because of how much voice work they have for him in it. It is also important to note they were very quick to come out after people got pissed about this next day. Hey, this is not his final performance. He's actually in these two other things. Yeah, movies coming out. So, which is cool. But for everything you can be upset about for that game, I feel like that's the one thing I'm like, this is dumb to be upset about.
That it's not a good game.
That's why I'm upset.
So you asked what I watched. I watched Nextlander play it for like 2 hours, right?
Okay.
And it's funny to watch them play that game because I was like, I really want to see what it's like. Because at the beginning, there's a lot of them talking about how, this isn't so bad. And then over time, it just gets to be like, this game is not good. And then at the 2 hour mark, they're like, this is bad. Because it was buggy as hell. Like the game would give them like an AI bot, but it would list them as the wrong character on the menu screen that they were in the game. Like the AI pathing was poor. Like the whole thing was just a mess. And it just seems like it's not, I don't know. It seemed like
somehow not ready for prime time, even though it's been 9 years.
There should be something there. Like a story about killing the Justice League should be good and fun. How often, like you don't get to kill Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and stuff in games, dude. You just don't. You play as them. So like this is the opposite. But when Captain Boomerang, a man who famously throws boomerangs, is walking around with an assault rifle shooting things, it kind of takes away from the game.
It does.
Like when you turn all four of these characters into somewhat copies of each other when they're four very different characters, it's ridiculous. And like the Deadshot thing. So we were talking last time, like, at Deadshot. Turns out I forgot he's actually the fourth person.
Yeah.
But it's because he's a different person than the Deadshot in the Arkham games. And the joke is, that other guy in the Arkham games, Deadshot, he was an imposter. I'm the real one.
That's bad.
How lazy is that? Like, that's lazy.
That's bad because that was a good version of him.
Yes, but that's lazy that, like, we're just going to make the fourth person Deadshot and write it off.
That's bad.
Couldn't have been anyone
I didn't
else.
Even know that.
So, and you saw, like, the Joker is one. Did you see who the other, like, supposed character
wasn't something about Brainiac?
No, Mrs. Freeze.
Oh, that's weird.
I think Lawless, and there was one other one, but it's just like random other people.
Nora Freeze is going to be one of the. That doesn't make sense, but all right.
Well, I mean, that's the thought, because apparently that was like an accidental line of dialogue that's still in the game refers to her.
I can tell you I've seen Elseworld Joker and I do not care for that.
Wow.
So, but also like, again, like it's not a shocker. We literally can't make one of these games without having the Joker in it.
If the game has Batman in it, by default, it must have the Joker. Otherwise, it must cannot have the be a Joker Batman in it.
Exactly.
They're afraid to do that.
They are even the 100% afraid.
The one chance they had to get away from it. Nah, it's just the Joker though instead. Yeah. It's like, come on.
Xbox is working closely with Pal World developers to enable faster updates, dedicated servers, and more. I actually saw a rumor going around that they could be acquiring that game, or the people that make that game, which wouldn't surprise me. If I were Microsoft and I saw that, I would be throwing money to get those people.
Quote unquote, like, as is typical, like the play numbers have like significantly dropped off. Yeah. But it's still like, I think it's like still relatively high for something that's been out there.
Yeah.
And I don't think Microsoft will. I think especially now with all this other stuff going on, it's like
probably not.
Maybe we take a break from that kind of shit right now. Even if it's a smaller company, let's just take a break.
Do you think the numbers dropped off because everybody's jumping on that hot Skull and Bones beta this past week?
I don't think that's anywhere close to true.
Okay. Oh boy. Well, let's talk about the PlayStation. We had a PlayStation State of Play. The PlayStation State of Play for January of 2024, part one, which I would tell you a lot of it is, man, 2025 looks pretty cool. PS5. I'll go down the list here. I think this is a backwards list, but who cares?
It's not in order, but yeah, it doesn't really matter.
The big news here, the thing that I wanted to see, I don't know why we waited a month. I don't know why we couldn't have done this at the Game Awards. I think the only reason why is they did not want this to overshadow that Xbox overdose game that Kojima's making. We got our Death Stranding 2 trailer. It is officially called Death Stranding 2 on the Beach. It is
somehow
again another batshit crazy trailer.
Fucking weirder than the first one.
I watched it and then immediately woke up my girlfriend and made her watch it just because I told him, like, I can't even describe to you what I've seen.
Did you just put the guitar guy on a fucking loop for 20 minutes? Because what the hell is happening?
I love that. That's not even there's so many things
around this room while this guy shreds the guitar.
The thing that broke my brain out of the entire trailer was the puppet. because there's no introduction, there's no name. It's just like, oh, he wants to go with you, and it's like, here's this puppet that's also stop motion in this fucking video game.
Does the lady have hands on her neck too?
She has these glove hand things. Yeah.
There's
so many crazy things going on. The dude that was doing the surgery at the beginning that has like the cat that's made out of like black blood or something. That's just the director, George Miller. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I have, because who knows anything
Kojima is friends with everybody. So, he puts everybody in these games. I thought the trailer was awesome. I mean, it makes sense where they're taking the story. It's so batshit insane. Again, the big bummer, 2025.
Right.
So, but it looks jaw dropping. Like the sequences of like real time weather effects.
Yeah,
there was that avalanche.
Mm-hmm.
Like that looked insane.
Yeah.
And then you alluded to it. Troy Baker's character is back from the first one somehow. We don't know how he's back. I'm sure it'll be explained, but he has a chainsaw guitar hybrid weapon. That is like the most fucking crazy thing. Like, there's so many crazy things that happen in that trailer, and it's another like 10-minute trailer too.
Yeah.
So
it's exactly like the first one. It tells you nothing and everything at the exact same time.
Yep.
Because
I told her,
your feeble brain cannot understand what is happening until you experience it. That's how his games work. And
that's what I told her. I'm like, it is yet again like probably the most straightforward trailer he's done, but it's still like incomprehensible.
What the fuck?
So, and then the other big news after that is that Kojima is once again teaming up with Sony to make a new action espionage Metal Gear like game that has a code name of Ficent, and they're also going to make a movie at the same time.
Well, yeah, but the chuckle of that is we're not even going to start working on that until this is done. But he's got the other thing going on.
So he has to finish Death Stranding, and he has to finish the Overdose game. So maybe in 2030 you'll see this game.
No.
You think longer?
2033, I'm guessing.
Okay.
Because he's got to finish this, finish that, start that.
It's a lot.
I mean, the thing about him though is like he has a blank check and a
absolutely,
you release it when you feel like it pedigree.
That was Sony going up to him. How much can we pay you to make a Metal Gear like game?
It's not even. He just went up to them and said, I have an idea. It would be an espionage game. And they said, whatever. And they just let it like do it. Let's go to work.
What else did we get? We got and they did a deep dive on that Team Ninja Rise of the Ronin game. For me, I'm just not interested in it because
that's the one that just looks like Assassin's Creed, right?
It looks like Assassin's Creed, but mixed with Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah,
and I'd rather just play a new Ghost of Tsushima.
Well, one of the things I think we've talked about this a little bit before too, but like I'm over samurai stuff already.
Yeah,
like I'm over it.
I kind of am too.
Move on. Pick something else.
That's why I couldn't get into those Neo games or Sekiro. Like,
right.
We kind of did that, and then Ghost of Tsushima was the one where like I didn't play that game when it came out. But then
that's
like
on
6 months later,
I want to play.
PS5, I was like, all right, they updated the game to run great. And I played that like PS4 to PS5 version of it. And
Can
it was
I just get a Tenchu, please? That's all.
There you go. Make this man Tenchu.
Just don't stop with the fucking samurais. Just give me a ninja that's assassinating people.
Exactly. They're remastering Until Dawn. This was another one, like it's been rumored for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know why we have to remaster it.
It doesn't look like there's anything new. And I think that's the problem I have with it.
Stellar Blade, which I'm extremely excited about. They did a deep dive on that. It has a release date of April 26th, so that's coming pretty soon. I think that was like the one big thing in here that was soon and this year.
Actually coming.
Yeah. Stellar Blade.
I will say that watching that your gameplay, it's like I got really heavy like Lightning Returns vibes.
Yeah.
You're the savior. Go do this for us. So I was like, oh, okay.
They showed a brief trailer for Dragon's Dogma 2, but again, that's out in a month and a half. So if that, this kind of got leaked ahead of it, but we didn't know the extent of what it was going to be. But Sonic X Shadow Generations was announced. So sure, that was my thing. My favorite bullshit moment of the state of play was everything that had to do with Silent Hill.
Yeah.
So they dropped from everything I've seen, bad, like free to play Silent Hill. Like, what is it? It's like a 90-minute demo type game called The Short Message. Everything I've seen has been bad on it,
Everything
so I
is
won't
ripped it
even.
apart.
Yeah.
But they also put a new trailer for Silent Hill 2, which you would think, okay, we haven't seen Silent Hill 2 for over a year. We should probably be getting close to a release date for that. And that trailer ended with simply in development for PS5.
Wow.
No date. And I cannot comprehend that.
Surprised this game hasn't been abandoned. Get it?
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Where's that game? Where's Blue Box Studios? What are they doing?
Judas, the people that made BioShock, that got a brand new trailer. I think that's also like a spring 2025, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Man, does that just look like BioShock?
It just looks like BioShock.
Which is fine. I don't care. It's been long enough that I want one. But
we had a couple string of indie games that have been out on PC for a while that got PS5 announcement. We have V Rising, which is a pretty cool game. That's a cool get for PlayStation. Dave the Diver is also. I'm surprised it took this long to come to another console because it's only on Switch, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then PC. So I'm surprised it took this long. They also announced like a little collab with Godzilla, so which makes sense because that game, other Godzilla movie's coming out pretty soon.
This game collabs with like everything, which is awesome.
Okay. Maybe you can explain to me what this was, the ZZZ game, Zenless Zone Zero.
That's just the next Genshin Honkai game, which it looks great. I'll play it.
Okay. They did a couple VR games that are doing a Metro game in VR called Metro Awakening. They also did that Legendary Tale. I think it's already out now. It came out like February 8th. Legendary Tales. That actually looked kind of cool for a VR game.
I guess so, but again,
interesting.
This is gonna this VR stuff's gonna happen in the same way the first one did.
Yeah,
games are gonna slowly die off for this thing, and then they just won't talk about it anymore.
And I'll remind you because I saw it in Walmart again the other day that thing is still $550.
Insane.
So, and there are plenty available at the Walmart I was at.
You can buy them anywhere. Yeah.
And then the things they kicked this off with was a Helldivers 2 trailer. We already know about that, and a Foam Stars trailer, which again, those are both.
I mean, that makes sense. So they were coming out right after this thing was.
Yeah, this literally happened right before then. So again, it was another whatever state of play. A couple cool things, but again, like I said, sure seems like 2025 is going to be the year finally.
The funniest part about it too was like at the very end, because like they had teased, or the rumor going around was like they were going to talk about Final Fantasy in it, and it doesn't happen. Then they get to the end, it's like, oh, come back next week and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So then I watched that one, the 15 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
No, it was just like the trailer and some other stuff. I'm like, I didn't, I told myself I wouldn't watch it, but like, again, I'm trying to avoid spoilers for a game that's a remake of a game I've played a dozen times. But you asked me afterwards, if they teased or if they said anything about like her death, and because like that's the thing going around, and we've talked about it, and what's it going to be? After watching this, it seems like she's going to die.
Okay, you think they're not?
There's a weird scene they show you, and I really wish they hadn't, because. If you know the original game, you'll understand what's kind of going on. Okay. But it could be something else. It really could be, but it really seems like she's going to die.
Okay.
But they also clearly show that Zach is here and he's just hanging out. But my thought is they both die.
Okay. That would still be sticking with the original, but also throwing a twist.
He's not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
They also showed off like some of the open world traversal, and like they talked about places you get to go, like Cosmo Canyon and Gagaga and Junon and Wutai and all that kind of stuff. So like they showed a shitload. And then, your buddy Sid shows up and he's hanging out. And, Vincent shows up. But remember, those two guys are not playable in this. And they also came out and said that they're not even going to be in battle. So, like, how Red was there in the first game? Yeah. He would just do his own thing. They will not even do that in this game.
Yeah, I read that,
and they said that it's because we got to save something for part 3. There was one other cool reveal, and this is, a mini spoiler for people who care. So if you just played Crisis Core, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cisne, that character in that game, the girl who's like, she's kind of weird and you don't know what her deal is, especially at the end. Well, before, up until now, she's never been referenced again, like ever. And it was super weird because it's like she's kind of a main part of Crisis Core, and there's something about her that you don't know. She's in the trailer. She's there, which is cool as hell because like that is a character I'd really like to see more about, especially because she's tied to Zach.
Okay.
So
that's
Zach
pretty cool.
being alive, it makes sense that she's there. So that's a cool like extra thing we'll get out of this. Like that's why I like this remake thing so much. Is there are a lot of like loose plot lines that you didn't ever get closure from like the original game or other things. Right. Oh, and then they showed the dolphin part. That's like dolphin racing now. It's like wave race on a dolphin.
That's fine.
Sure,
that's fine. I saw a little bit of the gold saucer
tons of gold saucer stuff. They talked about how you actually have like a party level, and that it shows how like actions affect other people. Like who you interact with and what levels you have with them will determine like the gold saucer dating thing. Like there's a lot more to like interactions and stuff, which is I'm just super excited. That looks so good.
I took off a couple days for that.
I think I might too.
I'm very excited. Next, we have more details have emerged on the day before's collapse. Including employees worked under relentless crunch, not a shocker there,
Weird.
and faced fines for small mistakes.
That's crazy.
So, they were one of the things that on the fly changes coincided with other game releases as the day before. Developers were told to imitate features such as the character creator from popular games like Baldur's Gate 3, GTA Online, and Hogwarts Legacy. Changes were so frequent that they were essentially 3 versions of the day before during its development that were all completely different.
Damn.
Unrealistic deadlines, overpromises, and unreasonable demands are said to all stem from fantastic founders and brothers Edward and Aizen. I'm not going to try and butcher their last name. Some sources say that the 2 company heads would refer to the entire team as big family just to turn around and put pressure on the staff with spontaneous firings. These events were often used as a means to motivate the team, with one of the team's 5 testers fired 1 week before after one of the brothers found a bug. So a lot of more bullshit coming out about that game, which, boy, what a disaster. I thought this was cool. Infinite Wealth has sold 1 million copies. Persona 3 Reload has 2. The Persona 3 Reload is more surprising to me because that is on Game Pass.
Yeah. I mean, Persona people are Persona people, though. I mean,
I want to play that game really bad. It is the worst fucking time to play that game out. And that's why I'm like, shit, I can't, like, maybe after Dragon's Dogma, I will look at it. But I hope it at least is on Game Pass. My guess is it'll be on Game Pass for a year. So that's my hope. But I want to look at it.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of rumblings and rumors that there's a possibility a PS Vita 2 is in development. I just laughed and said, why?
It's weird because then why make the Portal?
Yeah, right?
Wouldn't
the Portal seems like the answer for that.
The Vita 2 would have to be the Portal. Would have to work the same as a Portal. But the other rumors I saw about it is like it would coincide with like a PS6 release. So it's like super far away. So who even cares? It could be anything.
Why don't you go on your rant about MLB?
This is just further bullshit about like physical stuff. So every year I buy the MLB Collector's Edition just because I have it forever. They finally announced the current one, which is a Negro Leagues edition, which is super cool. It's the same thing, hat, steelbook, whatever. Again, this is a PS4, PS5 game because we can't give that up. But for some reason now, this version is $125 as opposed to $100.
Jeez.
And there's no disc. Just a code. Why is it more expensive? The hat's not more expensive. The steelbook is empty. Why is this more expensive? It's driving me nuts.
Yeah.
I reserved it, but this is the first time I'm ever like, why am I doing this? Kind of a thing.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
No.
Director of Final Fantasy VIII just kind of came out and said if they did a remake, it would have rework systems. They would get rid of the junction system, which made me laugh.
I don't think they could fully get rid of it. They'd have to redo it.
They'd have to do a different version of it. Do you think that's even like? Do you think that's what they do? They're even talking about next?
No, I don't.
What do you think they're talking about doing after
I don't think 8 ever
7
gets remake? I don't think 8 ever gets remade.
What do you think they remake after 7?
If you want to redo a big one, remake,
I think it's 9.
It's 10.
You think they do 10? Okay. Yeah.
It's been over 20 years.
It has, which
is strange. It's been over 20 years. It is arguably one of the top 3 most popular of those. And they could that game is huge, but they could flesh it out even more.
They could
redo the voice acting, change character models, the environments, all that kind of stuff.
make that lightning field even longer.
Lord, 500 strikes.
There you go.
But I don't. Nine is the one they keep talking about, which I would love. I don't think 8 is ever in the cards.
I don't think it is either.
No.
And I enjoy that you said in the cards.
Nice. New card game, Final Fantasy 7.
There you go. Spider-Man 2 finally gets its new game plus, new suits and more in their like big title update, which will be out on March 7th. Woohoo. So I've been waiting to go back and do another run of Spider-Man 2. That'll be out then.
I'll wait to see if there's DLC and then I'll do it. I don't need to do that right now.
Yeah. I was gonna say
That's
I would wait to see
Final Fantasy. I don't need that right now.
No, not the best time to put it out. Final Fantasy veterans have announced a new game called Lost Helden. That game looks incredible.
I haven't looked at
it. And you haven't looked at it yet? No. It looks incredible visually. It has a really cool art style going for it. I think it's next year, I want to say.
Okay.
But yeah, that looks
I'll
really,
check it
really
out,
cool.
Yeah.
Something to watch. And then my last news article, which I just put in here because I thought it was funny. Ubisoft just had like their big earnings call, and they announced that they are not going to continue with investments in VR following the disappointing sales of Assassin's Creed Nexus VR.
Weird.
What a shocker that game did not sell very well.
It's just VR stuff is always like that, man.
It is. So, well, anyways, we're going to go ahead and kick over to movies. I think this is the first time since Turtles where we have a movie that we all watched
at the same time. Yeah.
That we can talk about. But I will kick it off with saying I watched Aquaman 2, hot digital release. What, not even a month after it came out.
Wow.
It's a 6 out of 10.
I mean, that's better than I thought you'd give it.
It's very middle of the road. There's too much Amber Heard in this movie. I also maybe I just didn't pay attention to that chick in the first movie, but it is so painfully obvious how bad of an actress she is in this one.
Oh boy.
There's a scene where she's with Nicole Kidman and she just sticks out like a sore thumb with her acting. It's really bad. The best parts of the movie are Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson just being bros hanging out. And that's
not surprising.
The second third of that movie. So
yeah, that's kind of what I want when I want that movie is I just want to see him hanging out.
The other thing I will commend the movie for, because most comic book movies do not do this well, is that instead of introducing a slew of new villains, they just stuck with the same guy from the last movie and was like, hey, Aquaman killed his dad in the last movie. He's pissed off. He wants to kill Aquaman.
Well, and Black
that was cool.
He's a major Aquaman villain.
He's a major Aquaman villain.
Yeah. Because who was the villain in the first one?
It was him and obviously his brother, Ocean Master. Okay. So,
is there another guy?
No, it was just them.
It's been a while.
And in this movie, then obviously there is the element of the force that's controlling Black Manta, which is whatever but part of that movie.
Well, the thing is none of that means anything anymore.
No, so. Do you want a spoiler for how it ends?
No, because it
doesn't matter.
I am going to watch it. So don't.
Okay,
but
it ends in a way where my feeling coming off of it is yeah, that's cool. I guess that would be the direction I would take this character if it was in a universe that was continuing,
right.
But it's not continuing, so who cares?
I think, right?
This is the last DCU movie, so and they do not do anything to make it known that it is the last DCU movie. They just said fuck it and threw this movie out. I guarantee this movie is probably sat on a shelf for the last year with nobody touching it.
Almost, yeah. It definitely for a while, yeah.
For all those people who are they're going to cut Amber Heard. No, I think she had the role she had in this movie.
I don't think that was ever a thing. I don't think they were ever going to.
They don't care.
Rework that movie enough.
I will say this, like The Flash, there is a joke involving her in this movie that I honestly, and you'll know it when you watch the movie.
Real
it's the
world,
very beginning.
Meta joke.
It's a joke where I was shocked that it was kept in the movie, and it was like The Flash when they made that joke about mental health, where I'm like, I wouldn't have done that because that's going to upset people, but it's with Amber Heard. And you'll know it when you see it. It's in the first 5 minutes of the movie because there's an ongoing joke with Jason Momoa and this kid.
Okay.
And you'll see it when it happens. And when you see it, you'll be like, oh, wow, you shouldn't have put that in there. And again, how many people did this go through before they're like, yeah, put it up?
No, but like you just said, nobody cares.
No, nobody cares because the universe is over for this. So it's like I said, it's a 6 out of 10. It's not the worst DCU movie by far, but it's not terrible. It does have some pretty bad CGI.
Flash level?
They do So they do a shot when they show his kid being born, and that child in that moment looks as bad as those babies in the beginning of The Flash. Oof. Which leads me to say, stop CGIing kids. They look terrible.
Yeah, they get real uncanny valley.
I still don't understand why CGI is so bad in this era. Like, what are we doing?
Time crunch.
I don't know. That's got to be it, right?
That's got to be it.
Look at Ant-Man. Ant-Man proved it. Ant-Man needed another year.
Easily from some of the stuff. And I haven't watched that movie. I've just seen
the other problem with these movies is like, look at those three movies, Ant-Man, Flash, and Aquaman. Those are all movies that no matter how you shoot them are heavy CGI dependent. They have to be made in CGI. Whereas,
and I will say it doesn't all look bad in Aquaman, but there are sequences where you're like, ooh.
They had to be heavy CGI because of what they were doing in the movies. You go back and look at like the early MCU when you're talking about like Thor. It's just fucking him hanging out in a town.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The like there's some CGI in the beginning with like Asgard, but it's like an establishing shot.
Yeah.
So like
they don't really do much of it until the second one.
They decided to ramp all that shit up, and it just got progressively worse.
Think about like the first Captain America as well. That's just more of a World War II movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, even the first Iron Man, a lot of that is practical.
Mm-hmm. So and then the only other movie I watched, which we all watched, and I will say right now, for me, it was a 9 out of 10.
I'd put it up there.
The Beekeeper.
It's fantastic.
Which
so good.
It's just a fantastic action movie. And I argue it's Statham's best movie since the Crank movies.
It has the feel of those movies, not in the same like
not in the same like
charged kind of a thing, but
not in the same sense of like I'm in on the joke too type of movie, but it is like, and the thing is like, I think it's another one of those movies where like the trailer does it justice because they don't show you that much of the movie. They show you like maybe the first 20 minutes in the trailer.
This movie went this hard.
No,
I didn't think it went this hard. I didn't think it went this far up the chain up to where this goes.
Oh my God. Like the story goes bonkers.
Really bonkers.
Like every twist of like what the story is, like towards the end, just gets progressively fucking crazier.
Crazier.
The best way to explain this to someone who maybe only saw a commercial or doesn't know what this is, it is John Wick, except instead of killing his dog, they kill his old lady.
Yeah. Essentially.
And then there's bees. Like the bee metaphor is a bit much, but
it gets a little overblown, but it's fine.
Point.
I'm a beekeeper.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
It is.
I didn't know Josh Hutcherson was the bad guy until the thing came out. I was like, what is happening?
And the thing I'll say is like it's a movie where like each person that plays a bad guy plays their part so well that you want to see them just fucking murdered in the most ridiculous ways possible.
They all play like really heightened versions of real people.
They do.
But it's fine because you need that again to root for a man who is going to murder 50 people minimum.
I think
more.
Most of them without a gun.
Yeah, well, God, like it is.
I'd say he's in the way he's kind of an anti John Wick because he doesn't really use a gun very much. He's just kind of fucking destroying people.
There's one part where he uses one, like, and I was actually kind of surprised at that part where it was like he takes out a bunch of dudes with it. I was like, wow, that didn't seem like they were going that way.
Yeah.
But like it going hard, like that knife fight. Man, that just
at the end of the movie?
just kept going.
Yeah,
kept going.
Yeah, it did.
That was wild.
It was insane.
Yeah, and my girlfriend enjoyed it too. So
I love solid though.
I want them to make as many of these as possible as fast as they can.
Make another one. Let's do it.
I need at least 2 more.
And I think the fact that the story, the way that the old lady died, is real life.
It's oddly topical.
Exactly.
Like, it is.
The whole thing is oddly topical because it involves this phone scam stuff.
If you know anything about like phone scams, or if you've ever watched like the YouTube guys who go after these guys, like you know what's going to happen when she's on the phone. Like you kind of you could tell what's going to happen.
The whole time I was like, "Don't do it."
I know.
Don't give it to him.
And she almost does it, and you're just like, Beekeeper's a good tool to show it to your grandparents so that they know not to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
But make sure they watch the whole thing so they watch Jason Statham just fucking murder a tower full of people at one point.
Yeah, go insane.
It is crazy.
It's great. It's great.
But it is I laugh because like I say it's John Wick. It is a ripoff of John Wick, like in every possible way. Like he goes to this little bunker and it's got old technology. He calls into the place where the women all work the computer. It's just like, I get it.
I
get it, but I don't care. I don't even care.
Yeah, I didn't care.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to watch it again.
The only other thing I'll throw out there, just because it happened, David, did you see any of the trailers that were put up for the Super
I watched
Bowl?
the Deadpool one because I wanted to watch it.
We now know it's just called Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
I love
Twisters. That looks stupid as fuck.
I think Twisters looks terrible.
At first I thought like, are they just remaking it? Because maybe I could forgive them if they're just remaking it.
It's just like another.
It's a weird sequel where like there's two Twisters. Oh my god!
Wow, that looked bad.
The Deadpool thing, like I'll say this, it looks good. I'll go see it. It's clear that movie just said fuck it to everything. Like I don't fucking care about it.
No.
Like to use the Loki like TVA thing as a way to do this, fine. Who cares? If that's what it takes, fine. It's just going to be, that movie's going to be wild.
Yeah,
it is.
Did you think that one shot that it was Dr. Doom standing on top of that thing?
Could be.
It's not. I went back and I stopped it.
Okay.
Because I was like, I have to know. Because if it is, that's a real fucked up way to show Dr. Doom exists in this.
It is.
To have 1 second in a trailer. Could it still be like some weird form of him? I guess maybe because
I also like that the
universe exists.
Yeah, for sure. I also like that they didn't really do anything with Hugh Jackman in this trailer because they don't need to. It's already sold itself.
Yeah.
So
the announcement of the movie thing itself sold everyone on the movie.
So
you want to play Wolverine one more time? Yeah, sure, Ryan. And that was enough to sell this movie to everyone.
Yeah. They also put out, and I watched the trailer for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which looks really good. But I like those movies, so I don't think this one's going to go as hard as that. Have you ever watched any of those? Because that last one,
well, I think the first one, and that's
the last one with Woody Harrelson is like oddly dark and really goes some places.
No, I didn't see that one. I saw the first.
That one's a great movie, so that I highly recommend. But those are pretty good. But this one looks really good. I think they moved it up too. So those were the only trailers that I saw. I know they did something for Wicked, but I didn't watch that trailer. Nor care. So I don't like musicals. So
sorry.
So Dan, the only thing you saw was The Beekeeper. What about you, Matt?
Oh man, so I went on a movie binge this week. After I watched The Beekeeper, I wanted to finish watching Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Or Blood and whatever it's called.
Blood and Honey.
It was
bad.
It's not even that it was bad.
Okay.
The problem I'm having with it was very overly sexual. Like,
okay,
to the point it just didn't even need it. So, like, one of the very first kills is Winnie the Pooh chasing down one of the girls that are in the 100-acre woods.
Sure.
But, like, when he gets her, he grabs her by the shirt and just rips it off.
Okay.
So she's just bare-chested, just hanging out. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Okay. Yeah.
It's an R-rated movie.
Right, whatever. I could see that. He chucks her in a wood chipper, blah, 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 blah. The next kill is this chick in a bikini in a hot tub. Like, every single kill felt overly sexual in a way that just weird. Didn't even need to be. You
just got to prep yourself for the sequel that's coming, man.
And you know what's crazy is I didn't even know the sequel was coming. I finished watching this and like I jumped on YouTube right after watching it, and it was like, hey, the trailer for Winnie the Pooh 2 is up. And I was like, oh my God, let me just go and watch
put up a couple days ago, I think.
Yeah. So I watched that and well, I can tell you what, the at least the details in the mask look better than the other one, than the first one did to the second one.
Okay.
It's a bad movie. Just don't watch it. Like, it's a horrible movie.
No,
there's really no.
Even as someone who doesn't like that stuff, I would never even consider it. You know?
Yeah. Well, I watched it because I wanted to see what was going on, and I regret watching it because it was not a good movie. Like, it was bad. But I also then decided I saw a clip on this movie, The Hunt. It was it came out a while back. I don't even really remember.
I think I know that one.
And it came out in 2020. Okay, yeah. So I saw a clip of it and I went ahead and watched it. It kind of reminds me, I'm not even going to say Hunger Games. I'm going to say Battle Royale, if you ever watched that. That was like the Asian version of the Hunger Games, which was way better than what the Hunger Games were.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know what movie you're talking about.
Pretty much they drop, I think it's like 12 people in the middle of this empty land. And essentially, rich people are hunting them down. That's it. That's the basis of the movie. The only thing that's really crazy is the girl that plays the main person. She just fucking goes in. Like, she's a good thing about this movie. Betty Gilpin, I believe is her name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She is fantastic. And there's a couple of people that are in the movie that are bigger names than her, I would say.
Dennis from It's Always Sunny is in this movie.
Yeah, you would think that they would actually be around a lot longer. They don't stick around very long.
Okay.
So, all in all, it was a pretty solid movie. If anything, I give it maybe like a 7 out of 10. It was really good for what it was. And then I cracked into something called Memory on Amazon Prime. I saw it. Liam Neeson. Hitman for hire, essentially, but he has Alzheimer's.
Okay,
I heard about this one when it came out.
Yeah. It wasn't horrible. It was pretty interesting, like story wise, because like one of the he's an assassin that doesn't kill women and children, or at least children, I believe, and the reason he starts going against everybody is because he gets sent on this mission. Ends up going to the house, finds out it's a girl, and he backs out. He's like, nah, I'm not doing this. Calls the person. He's like, I'm not doing it, blah, 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 blah. But then the next day, the girl ends up dying. And then he's like, did I do that? Because that's not something I would normally do. And he's with a person, like, I guess, a lady of the night, I want to say. And he was like, was I here all day? Was I here all night? Like, was I with you when this happened? And she's like, yeah, you've been here the whole time with me and blah, 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 blah. And like I said, his Alzheimer's start kicking in as he's just kind of going through trying to like figure out what's happened to this girl. It's not a horrible movie. If you got time, check it out. If you like Liam Neeson, it's a pretty solid flick. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. But that's it for me.
The other thing I'll throw out there, and I don't know if you've seen the trailer for it or not, but you should look up the trailer for this movie coming out. I believe it comes out in July. It has Nicolas Cage, but he's not really shown in the trailer.
Ooh.
It's called Long Legs, and it is like really, really unnerving trailer. Is
it the one where I think I saw a snippet of it where the girl, where like I think the dad calls like 911 and he's like, something's wrong with my daughter. Some sort of
murder mystery. Yeah. Okay. Remember a couple maybe like a month ago, I sent you that thing where it was like they were doing this viral marketing for a movie.
Yes, that was it.
Okay, that's this movie. So they put out a full trailer for it now.
Well, now I'm gonna have to go check it out.
And it is incredibly unnerving to the point I'm like, I need to see this when it comes out.
All right, I'm down.
But it's called Long Legs, and I believe Nicolas Cage is the serial killer in it.
Oh.
So it's going to be fucking weird.
Oh, it's weird.
So, but that movie looks wild.
So I'm going to give it a watch after we're done.
So yeah, but we can go ahead. We can transition into the other emails that we have for the week. First email we have comes from Ruben from Indianapolis, Indiana. Hey all, I always love your conversations on movies. I'm curious, the comedy genre seems to be on its last breath these days, where just a decade ago it was booming. Obviously a lot of that has to do with modern society, but that's not why I'm writing in today. I'm writing in today to find out what y'all's favorite comedy movies are, and as a bonus, do you think that genre can recover at any point? Thanks.
For sure. Rush Hour 4.
Here you go.
That's all I need.
Rush Hour 4. I don't know if that genre can recover at the point of like putting those movies out in the theater and like expecting a huge amount of money back. like it was a decade ago.
Yeah.
Like think about even last year, like we had that Jennifer Lawrence movie that came out, which I watched. I can't remember. No Hard Feelings. That's what it's called. Okay, like that didn't set the world on fire, and I'd say that movie was on par with that type of comedy from a decade ago.
Yeah.
It's closer.
It's not. Yeah, it's closer. It's not a particularly great movie.
It's just like the era of like The Hangover and The 40-Year-Old Virgin, and like all of those kind of movies. Like you go back and watch them now, and like as a fan of a lot of those movies, like they're still funny to me, but there's a lot of things where you're like, well, you couldn't say that, you can't say that,
couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is it's not that you can't say it or you shouldn't say it. It's that there are people
today
who will use it as an excuse to be offended, knowing full well that they went into an R-rated comedy about such and such character that behaves this way.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just people look for excuses now to be offended by stuff.
For sure.
They do.
I'm someone who likes particularly like dark comedy and like just like a lot of dumb shit makes me laugh, but I also understand it's all jokes. Yeah, it's all funny. I wouldn't go up and say half of the shit that people I'd meet because it's just these are jokes. Like I love that era of like I love like Step Brothers and stuff just because it's fucking insane. Like this would never happen. It's just it's an excuse for Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly to fuck around for 2 hours. And that's why I like that era of movies so much, is because it's just like you see a couple people you like who just get to mess around for 2 to 3 hours.
And they made a lot of those, like
Talladega
that
Nights.
Will Ferrell. Yeah, I was thinking of Semi-Pro.
Yeah, I love Semi-Pro. Him and Woody Harrelson fucking around for 2 hours. That's all that movie is. But it's and a lot of the jokes might not land today, but like
I think the thing too is a lot of those movies in that like budget range are things that you see thrown on streaming services today.
Yeah,
Netflix.
I mean, if you think about it, Adam Sandler was kind of ahead of his time making that Netflix deal,
right?
Which he made in 2013. He doesn't really have like any of his movies that come out in the theater today. Usually are the serious ones.
Well, yeah, because there's two different sides of Adam Sandler. We know that, but like, yeah, the Netflix thing was a clear win for him to just be like, I have to make 6 movies. I get to make the 6 movies I want to make, and they're the dumbest fucking Sandler-esque movies there are. But that's fine.
Most of them have been pretty bad.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. Is like they also don't need to be any kind of quality.
No, they don't. I'd say the only one that I genuinely enjoyed was Hubie Halloween. So
I think the comedy genre has its. The only problem is everybody, like you said, they get easily offended nowadays. And if you go into an R-rated movie knowing that it's going to be a bunch of fart jokes, like, and you get mad at that, like, I'm sorry, I can't do anything for you.
Part of it's on you for watching the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like no offense, but when I went and saw Jackass, I think it was 2 in theaters, and the opening scene was I saw it in 3D, and it was all the dildos flying at you.
Well, that's the third one.
Was it the third one?
Yeah.
I didn't expect anything else coming from that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly. But I mean,
4
that's
is worse.
The thing about it. Yeah, like
4 is a lot worse.
Yeah, 4 was horrible. But I mean,
I still have yet to watch it.
It's
good.
I need to watch it.
Fucking good.
It's so stupid, but it's funny as fuck. Okay. But yeah, like I just think you have to have a different mentality for it when you go into things like that. And that's the problem. Is everybody is just so not. It's comedy.
I just don't see the days of them being $100 million, $200 million.
I don't either.
Like, remember when Hangover just went nuts, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Hangover was so crazy that they greenlit 2 and 3 immediately. Super bad. All that stuff went nuts.
Super bad still holds up.
Yeah, God, yeah, it does.
I'd say you want to talk about favorite ones. Like I would say from that, at least from that era, I'd say like Superbad. I just recently rewatched Superbad, and it still holds up.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
It's not realistic in any sense, but it's funny.
No. I mean, I'm still a fan of those the '90s, like Farley. Tommy Boy, Black Sheep.
I even like that Stuck on Me movie, even though it's stupid as hell.
That one's pretty funny. Yeah. Sandler, obviously Happy Gilmore. I think we've talked about this before, but like I've gotten to the point now where like Billy Madison, I've kind of like maybe grown out of Billy Madison. There are parts of that movie where you just watch it. I'm like, maybe I'm too old for it now, but not for Happy Gilmore. So, when it comes to like those classics, or if you even go back earlier to like the 80s. I mean, I've said before, my favorite movie to watch when I am sick is Mr. Mom with Michael Keaton.
Yeah, I guess it also depends on how you define comedy. Mm-hmm. Because one of my favorite movies of all time, and we've talked about it before, but I don't remember. I love the movie Clue. Like, that's a comedy to me because I find it's the absurdity of it is hilarious, and it's got really good like one-liners and stuff. But I absolutely love that movie. I could watch that movie every day if I had to. And,
for me, the other guys.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like that movie is like the polar opposite of comedy from Clue. Like those are not even close to things. But but yeah, so like I guess it really kind of depends on how you define that stuff. But like, yeah, Mr. Mom, like all those like those kinds of movies, like I liked a lot. I don't know. I think the era of blockbuster comedy is over. And to be fair, we're almost at a point where the era of blockbuster superhero movies is over too. Like
for sure,
blockbusters in general barely exist. Like as people who
even
go see every fast movie and every Mission Impossible movie, they're not the same as they were.
No. I even watching these couple Super Bowl trailers, and that was the first thought I thought that I had was, well, do you think this movie will even do good in the theater?
Deadpool
is it going to make Deadpool will the Planet of the Apes movie? I don't know. Twister's going to bomb.
Twister's will tank.
Will bomb.
Wicked will tank because again, it's one of those things that a lot of them. It's a niche. Not many people.
I don't know. I think there is a big enough subset of people who like Wicked who will go see that.
I mean, I'm going to go see it.
I think the people that like that play, and that play has been going for 20 years now. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think the people that are really into that play are going to go see that movie because they want to see what it looks like on the big screen, fleshed out into a movie. But I don't know. I don't necessarily think that's going to be $100 million movie either.
Oh no.
And we're also at a point. We're even at a point now where like Disney movies are hit or miss. Like that Wish movie tanked.
Yeah.
Do you know about the Moana thing?
The Moana thing, it's different because it was a TV show that they decided, screw it, we'll just make it a movie.
Yeah, but do you know about the Moana 2 thing, how that movie, like, they haven't really even started production on that?
No, because it was this TV show.
Yeah.
So they just have to find a way to merge that into that. But see, that's the thing is, like, I think Moana 2 will do well in theater.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I think it will just because it's a known quantity.
And the first one is very good.
Yeah, the first one still holds up.
It's incredible.
Is it Inside 2 out this summer too?
Inside Out 2
comes out. That'll probably do
very well too because that is a known Pixar quantity. That is.
But then I also feel like Wish didn't get like the publicity that some of those movies got too. Like,
I just don't like. I think the problem with Wish is it wasn't. It like as someone who has younger kids who are into this kind of stuff, even they weren't even drawn to that.
Exactly.
No, I said the big test for me on that movie was going to Walmart and seeing the fact that the toy section for that movie was untouched.
Right. Whereas stuff like Encanto was huge. And that's a great movie. We still watch it all the time. Like they should make a second one to that. Not that like making a second one of these movies always waters it down. And I think part of it is just because like Moana 2, that's a bet. Name it something else. Like it could be something. It could be called something.
I think it will probably have a subtitle.
No, they don't. They don't do that because like Frozen 2, Toy Story 3, 4. Like they give up at a certain point.
Well, I don't want a Toy Story 5, but they're doing it.
I know.
I didn't want Toy Story 4, but they did it.
4. You know what? 4 was the kind of thing where it's like I don't want this, and then I went and saw it, and I said it was pretty good. I really don't want a 5, and then they're like, oh, here's 5. It's like, come on.
3 had a perfect ending.
4 had a great
ending, but I think. For me, after I finished watching 4, the way that the story ended between Woody and Bo Peep, for me was like, that was it. I'm good.
That's the weird part is like, 3 left it kind of up in the air, like what could happen. 4, like, they are separated now. It's over. Yeah. How could there, like, that should have been
about getting them back together.
No.
Don't do that.
Back together.
I don't want them back together. Stop ruining everything. But yeah, like, just to go back, like, comedy stuff, like, is there even a comedy coming out that you could point to? Like Deadpool, I guess, is on the line, but it's a superhero movie, and it is now specifically an MCU superhero movie. Yeah. So, it's
Rush Hour 4 for me is where I'm leaning.
I don't think we're getting it.
I got hope, man.
I do too. I mean,
Get the hope.
I do, but I feel like the time for that was like 5-10 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. The thing about comedy movies today is like they're kind of just announced and they're out. It's not like there's not like a big push for one coming out. Like, oh, here's the big summer comedy.
I'm even trying
like,
to remember like recent ones, like Trainwreck, maybe.
I told you the most recent one I can think of was the Jennifer Lawrence one, which was like,
but even
I just recently watched Neighbors 2, and it was not very good.
I feel like you're right on that aspect, though, Kyle. I feel like a lot of comedies are like 2 weeks. There's a trailer, and then the movie comes out.
That's what happened with that Jennifer Lawrence one, and then I was interested. And I was like, well, I'll watch it because again, in the day and age we live in now, it's up in 2 weeks, and it was. So, and then like I said, my reaction to that was I think I gave it a 6 out of 10 because of Jennifer Lawrence, but if it was anybody else, it would have been a 5. So because I think she elevated it a little bit.
For sure.
It was, whatever. But I don't know. I also don't think, like, even recently I think I told you that I rewatched Workaholics. And like Workaholics, even going back and watching that, and that ended 6-7 years ago,
somewhere around there.
And there's stuff in that you're like, ooh, I don't.
It shouldn't have gotten away with it at the time for a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. They do a lot of drugs on that show.
That's the whole point of that show. Great show, though.
Great show. We can move on to the next email. It comes from Charlie from Cincinnati, Ohio. Howdy, all. I was curious. You talked a lot on the podcast, quite a bit over the last year, and everything. But are any of you actually going to try out and play Skull and Bones at any point? Here is the answer I will tell you, and Dan probably agrees. Black Friday, $20 or less. I would like to see what it's like.
Ubisoft,
because I'll tell you at this point,
goes on sale.
I'm not, because at this point, probably not going to play Suicide Squad at all. So that game went from like maybe Black Friday, like I have no interest at all now.
Suicide Squad, I'm in at 20 just because my buddies and I, we have a very specific, we play C-tier co-op games.
Okay.
And when that came out and all the stuff that came out, I was like, I'm adding it to the list. It's on the bottom of the list, but it's added.
It's at the very bottom.
But Skull and Bones, I'm interested, but I mean, I'm already reading stuff about it. That's not good.
Yeah.
I'm over any game that launches with a year one roadmap.
I'm over any game that launches with 7 different trailers in like 10 years, or how many ever.
Hey man, there you go.
It's difficult for me to be invested, especially the start. But Ubisoft stuff, historically, we've talked about it a lot, goes on sale like crazy all the time.
Yeah, it does.
And and Skull and Bones really isn't something that I see myself needing to play within the first year that it exists. Just with everything else I've got, and like I have a backlog of good games I haven't played yet. Why would I put Skull and Bones at the top? But for $20, if I can convince other people to get it, that's the only way I'm playing it.
Yeah, that would be my answer.
Understandable.
This email comes to us from.
I'd rather play Sea of Thieves on PlayStation when it comes out.
There you go.
That's a better use of your money.
There you go.
Next email comes to us from Matt from Redacted. Hi, dudes. Longtime listener. First time I've emailed in. It's finally happened. I was just told by my district leader that our store will be closing at the end of this month. Can't say I haven't seen it coming, as sales have been down massively, and we've had probably the worst holiday season in this location's history. The question I have is that I've been offered to move to a neighboring store, as that store is losing their SL. I know this business is dying, but I'm considering accepting it while I look for something else. The question I have is, should I even mention that I'm looking to get out? I know it seems crazy to even say anything, but I personally feel bad if I go and work at this place for a few weeks only to then turn around and put in my notice. What do you all think? I wouldn't mention it.
Don't mention it.
Not at all.
because would they give you a heads up for anything?
You owe them nothing. Here, like you answered your own question with, they came in, they told you your store's closing in a month. We'd like to move you to this other store because that SL's leaving. If you want to take that other store while you look for other things, that's the smart way to do it. Yeah. But going in there and then, let's say you find a job a week later that's better hours, better pay, everything. You owe that company nothing. You're lucky.
Nope.
quote unquote, you're lucky that they had a place to put you or were willing to put you someplace else. How many people does this happen to yearly where they just say you're gone too?
Yeah.
That's what
A lot.
I was in the same scenario. When they came to me and they said your store's closing in a month, my DM said I'd like you to stay. I'm willing to fire this other guy to keep you. But my thing was that I'd have to work 45 minutes away. And I told him I need a couple days to think about it. And I thought about it. And I thought it's either I say no, or I either say yes and I take that. And now I have an hour and 30 extra on my commute every day, 5 days a week, sometimes maybe 6 days a week, to work at a store that is obviously in bad shape because he's willing to fire the guy that runs it to put me there.
Yeah.
Or I say no thanks and I take a severance and I use that time to find a job, which is what I did. But I would have had no qualms being like, yeah, I'll take it, and then immediately look for another job. And if that came up, just said, hey, if you get that offer, you just tell them like straight up, like, I have another job offer. It's such and such. It starts this day. My last day I can work here is this. And then from that point, you can play the game of, well, we'll match it or we'll do this. And it's like, well, you got to make it, you can play that game if you want to. But I don't recommend that you do. Like GameStop stuff is getting, we say it all the time, and I hate saying it all the time. GameStop stuff is getting crazier and crazier and crazier. And who's to say he doesn't come to you when you're at that store in 4 months and say, hey, I got news for you. Your store's closing next month. Because it can happen.
Now I don't have a spot for you.
Because it can happen. And then you didn't mess up, but you messed up because you took the job and you got content again and you stayed. Knowing full well that they give you a month's notice. There were some posts on the Reddit where I don't know how true it is, or who knew what.
I've seen those.
Or who knew what, but like my mall store closed. We were given 2 days notice or something. A mall store, maybe, because malls are fucking crazy with how that stuff works. And every mall across the country that's not a major mall,
there's a mall apocalypse going on.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Unless it is, like the ones we have near us, Kyle, the two we have, or the fucking Mall of America, the mall is trying to close. Mm-hmm. That's just how it is because they don't make money anymore. They don't care about you. They don't care about your life. Like it's incredible you got offered to move here, but they won't hesitate to close this one on you and say there isn't a spot this time.
Yeah, man, get out.
Just use it. Use the time. Yeah, but do not bring it up. If you bring it up, then you risk losing. Well, if you're going to do that, then I'm not even going to move you. And then you're just out of a job. And then you've really got to hunt. At least this way you could work towards it. Use it as a sign, like I did, that there is a time in life for you to move on from almost every job you get, unless you're one of the lucky few who gets their dream job, which fits your life perfect. Use it as a sign. They're trying to tell you something.
For sure.
Next email we have comes from Gene from Redacted. Howdy, dudes. Love the podcast. Have to say this has been honestly the single worst week I've worked at GameStop. Thanks to whatever Microsoft is doing, it's just been nonstop onslaught of people trading in their Xbox systems, people asking if the rumors are true. I can't keep any PS5s in stock. I've even had a customer blame me for what's happening with Xbox.
That's good.
I know things already suck here, but goddamn, I didn't think it could get worse.
Damn.
I mean, I'm not surprised. You remember what it was like right after that press conference?
Yes, there was a panic.
And there was like that whole summer.
People would ask us constantly, do you think this is true? Do you think this is true? I know exactly as much as you do.
Well, remember too, it was like a month before they came out and said, hey, we're pulling all that stuff.
It took a while.
It was not overnight. No. It took a little while.
It took a while. There was like a thing a couple of days after where they were like, well, we're going to reevaluate. Well, it was like that person spoke incorrectly. Yeah. Like that was that kind of stuff. But the DRM stuff didn't get removed for a while. But, the store level employee at a GameStop does not, they probably know more than you just because they care more than you do to actually look up stuff. But they don't have insider information. At our level, we had nothing. Does corporate know stuff? For sure. Is it stuff they could talk about? No. Is it stuff they want to talk about? Generally not. But there's always this mass sense of panic. Like the people are these are people that are looking for an excuse to do this.
Yeah. For sure.
Like, can I get an Xbox at a discount?
Who knows what's going to happen? Like maybe
I don't know. I mean, I've said before, like since last holiday, you've been able to get a Series X for around $350 most places because they're just on sale.
At the marketplace and see if people are dropping it. Because I mean, I'd be down with getting a new one.
You probably could. Right now, it'd probably be a good time to do that, especially if you want one with a disk drive. Because, like I said, come September, they're going to phase those out.
Mm-hmm.
So, Grant from Tupelo, Mississippi. Hey, all. Question is more for Kyle, but any plans on reviewing season 2 of the Halo show? Are you just throwing the towel in on it? I wouldn't blame you if you do.
No, you're watching.
I will read you the following text message I received from my best friend who decided to wake up and watch the first episode at like 8 o'clock in the morning on Thursday when it dropped.
Up and chose violence.
And I'm just going to read
himself.
this. And this is verbatim. I get this following text. In Halo, Master Chief visits what I assume is a virtual prostitute who he has customized to look like Cortana. And I responded, LOL, is this the first episode of season 2? And he says, yes. No. The answer is I'm not watching season 2. No, I can't do it. It's so fucking bad. Like, everything he has told me sounds so terrible. I'll say this. There was one reason why I was going to watch the first episode. And that was to find out how the fuck he is still alive after he died in the last episode. What if I told you they didn't even talk about that? Because that was the next question I have. Do they talk about that? No, they just glazed over and said it's 6 months later. And I said, I can't do it. So that's what killed my mood on. I was like, no, I wanted that answer. And I guess I should have expected that after waiting for so long to like, what do you think they'll do? What bullshit will they write? And the solution is to just avoid it completely. So what a shocker.
Yeah.
This will be the last season of that show. There's no way it gets a third season. And that's only because
he takes
Paramount
the helmet off even more.
Hey man, that actor can go out there
they
and
destroy the helmet so he can't ever wear it again.
So he's like a Kylo Ren where he breaks the helmet and then he puts it back together for the last one, right? That's what they did in Star Wars.
No, man, he just sheds the whole suit. He doesn't need the suit anymore.
He runs around in what I could describe as a Assassin's Creed like cloak at one point in that trailer for the new season. Where I'm like, who is this guy? Like, anyways, Perry from Queens, New York. Hey guys, love the podcast. I love when you guys branch out and talk about movies. I was curious, do any of you all like or watch anime at all? Or do you strictly stick to the movies and TV shows? Any favorites if you do watch anime? Thanks. I'm not a big anime person. I like very, very specific and select few things like Cowboy Bebop, Gundam Wing, very, very the Castlevania anime. You can count that as an anime. Yeah. And that's a fantastic anime. But I'm not the kind of person like I'm not going to pay for a Crunchyroll subscription. Let's put it that way. No. So I don't dislike it. It's just
guy.
I'm a Gundam guy. Yeah. Like that's probably my favorite, but I don't like I'm not a huge anime person, so I don't dislike it.
I'm not a huge anime guy either. There's very select few like Kyle that I do like. For a long time I greatly prefer subbed over dubbed. So I would go through, channels, we'll say, to get episodes of things subtitled and watch them in the original thing. Like I watched all of the first, I guess you could say like the first series of Naruto. Kind of as it came out, because I had a place where I could get the episode every day until that place got shut down, and then I kind of dipped off. My absolute favorite is one that I actually just started rewatching because I found a way to watch all of it again. Or watch all of it in a row because I had to dump off of it again because the place I got it got shut down by fucking Funimation, because Funimation's a bunch of assholes. Jerks. But it's my favorite anime is called Detective Conan, or Case Closed in English. It was on. I caught it the very first time I caught it was like when I was in college. It was on Cartoon Network at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And since I never slept in college, I would watch it, but like, and then I looked it up, and it's a murder mystery show about like a high school guy who gets drugged and he becomes a 6-year-old kid, but he's still himself. So he goes around solving all these murders, trying to find information on how to turn himself back. This show started this is a wild thing because I finally found I had to jump off at like episode 600 because that's when they stopped. This show is still going. This show started in 1996.
Oh, God.
I am on episode. I just started rewatching this a couple weeks ago. And I watch it a real ghetto way where I watch it on the Edge browser on my Xbox, which is really almost fucking impossible to actually do. But I can do it. It has over 1,000 episodes. It has over 20 movies. It has tons of OVAs. It has live action dramas. I'm on episode 78.
Okay.
And this is that episode. Do you know what year that episode came out in? 1997. This is fucked up, dude. You know how long this is gonna take me? It's gonna take me forever.
So this is so what you're telling me, this is your Dark Shadows journey.
I went down a hole and I found a watch order post on somebody's Tumblr from last year where it's literally like, watch these episodes, then watch the movie, then watch this. It is dark. I am in a dark hole right now. But I love the show, so it doesn't matter because it's actually super violent. It's just all murder mysteries. It's based off like Sherlock Holmes type stuff. There's other good parts of it that I really like. And the other thing I watch, you wouldn't call it anime, but it is Japanese. I watch a lot of Sentai stuff, specifically Power Ranger Sentai stuff that we don't get here. Because obviously, like, we adapt a lot of the seasons, but there's some seasons we don't adapt because they don't make sense in English. So, like, for example, there's one entire series called Tokyuger over there, which is Power Rangers where it's train themed. Because train culture in Japan is a very big thing, like train watching, and that's the main, transit system in that country. That series is incredible because how it works is they have their morphers are like trains. They put through a gate on their wrist, but they can change them. So like they can switch them. So like they can become different colors and get different weapons and stuff. The whole thing's crazy as hell. It's about like the power of imagination. But the plot is cool. We would never get it here. So I have to watch it that way.
It wouldn't make sense.
The place I used to get all this stuff from got nuked, so I had to find other ways to get it. There's another one that's really good where it's like cops versus robbers versus bad guys. But but again, it's based off of like it's very Japanese heavy as opposed to some of the other ones we get adapted. So we would never get it. That series is incredible too. We'll never get it, especially now that Power Rangers is kind of like it's like over right now. They just did that like Netflix thing where they did like the anniversary thing and then like a thing. Yeah. And then like a 6 or 10 episode thing to close it off where it's like dead now. Like Power Rangers is over. And the whole point is like they might be rebooting it. But
I was going to say that's probably.
But it doesn't really matter because like the Japanese shit's so much better. The anniversary, they did an anniversary series, which did get adapted into English, and it was a terrible season English. But the anniversary series in Japan was like a pirate one where they had keys of the old ones and they could turn into all the old ones. It's fucking, it's crazy as hell because they got all the people back from the old series. They all showed up and like during their episode where they would get the keys and stuff. It was crazy as hell. And so I watch a lot of that stuff too, although some of the later series of that in Japanese right now are they're going off the rails over there too. So I kind of dipped out. There's one that has like 15 Rangers. It's a lot.
Hey, I can argue with you that Dark Shadows is anime.
Kind of.
It gets that point.
It's anime Dracula.
It's wild. It is wild as shit.
Yeah, I think the only anime I've ever... So I watched Dragon Ball Z a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah. I've seen some.
But as I've gotten older, I believe this one is called High School of the Dead, I believe. Okay. Is one I try to keep up with. That was a really cool series. I enjoyed that. The only one I actually actively keep up with right now is One Punch Man because
that's pretty popular.
The Saitama, the lead character, is just so blunt, but also very snarky that his sense of humor is very fantastic. The first season was great. I rewatched the first season all the time. The second season was a different animation company took over. And it's not bad, but it's not as good as the first season.
It's different.
Was. It's different. So it's not horrible. Like I said, I watched all the second season. Third season actually comes out this year, so I need to watch that. But it's not horrible. I actively have tried to start Chainsaw Man. And it's not a bad one either, but I'm a very slow anime starter. Like I started watching Man, now I can't remember the name of it. It's a big one. My Hero Academia.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a big one too.
And I got into like episode 8 of season 1, and it's very good, but I'm very slow into watching new shows. I've
tried to jump into a lot too, but like some of them, they just feel like they're not moving along at the pace I would like.
Yeah, I feel like
I tried to watch One Piece, and I couldn't get past a certain point. Even Dragon Ball for me. Like I watched it when it was on like Cartoon Network.
I did a little bit of it. Yeah.
Because I was up until 4.
That's how I got into Gundam, and I did the same thing you did, where I found some Tumblr and then put it all in order.
Yes.
So I have it all in order for Gundam, like all of it.
Yeah.
The other one I'll throw out there that I always forget is Samurai Champloo. You ever seen that one?
Yeah, a long time ago.
That one was like mid 2000s. That one's really cool. Next email we have, this one's mostly directed towards me. Steve from Farmington Hills, Michigan. Hey guys, the question could be for all of you, but directed mostly at Kyle, as I found the podcast through Marble Gallery. I'm curious, as I've watched your videos for a few years now, you've been primarily an Xbox user over everything else. If this is truly the end of Xbox, how is that affecting you going forward with what you do with the channel? Any plans to cover anything or maybe do anything nostalgic with Xbox? And for the rest of you, how are you feeling on this situation? Well, we've kind of really already answered that part of it. It's not changing anything for me on the channel. I actually just did, and I have to edit it and compile the footage of the games, but I actually took the opportunity to make a top 10 updated in 2024 list of my favorite Xbox exclusives. Like games that only came out. There's one game on the list that did come out on PS3 later, but everything else
Vampire Rain
it's Vampire Rain, number 1. But I just did that. So that is one thing I am doing. But as far as how I cover, no, because it the way that I've always covered games on the channel, it's just I play the game wherever I want to play the game.
Yeah.
If it's a third party game. So, which most things are at this point anyways.
Let's talk about it. Like, it's a phrase I've always said, and I even said it when I worked there. It's like, I don't play systems. I play video games.
Yeah. And a lot of it comes down to like controller for me. Like Dragon's Dogma, for example, for me, that's a PlayStation game. It's just the controller I like for that type of game. Like a Souls type. That's not really essentially a Souls game, but that type of third person action.
Shooters feel better on
PlayStation.
Xbox.
Absolutely. 100% I would say there.
And I really like.
I do like the pulse triggers in the PlayStation 5, but
they're great. Like, oh man, I didn't say it before, but that Rebirth demo that really fucking uses those triggers too.
Does it? Whoa. Yeah, I think I'm excited about that.
Heavy resistance on the triggers at a certain point.
So, but as far as like my coverage, no, it doesn't really change anything. Casey from Phoenix, Arizona. Howdy. Random question for y'all. Have any of you ever sat on starting a hobby or getting into it because of a specific reason? Like, is there something you are looking at getting into and hold back onto for a specific reason, like collecting something or so on? Thanks.
I don't.
What was the thing we were just talking about?
I don't want to start anything else because I'm too deep in too many things.
I mean, we talked about we talk about it a lot. I think you, me, and Eric in our group chat about Warhammer.
I know because if I start that, it's a problem.
You're not interested.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And that's my I'm at the same level where I know if I get into it, I will go overboard and I will all of a sudden this entire room is gonna be full of those little figures and me painting shit.
The other problem is I'm too backed up on my current hobbies.
Yeah.
You know
Another one.
Like I collect video games and I play video games. I'm backed up on that. I collect Lego and build Lego. I'm far behind.
I gave up. Like I used to collect comic books too.
Yeah,
and I went through all that for a good decade. And then I just
couldn't.
I got to a point where I was just like, I have to give something up here.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have that time. I mean, I went basically how that worked for me was I went an entire year of just going and picking up my like regular comics and not reading them.
Me too.
Yeah. And the stack got higher and higher, and to the point I kind of was just like, I need to just be done here.
I just finally went cold turkey and just stopped going.
Yeah.
I told the guy, you can put my stuff away. Like, I cannot come back and do this. And now, like, every so often I get the itch to go back, but like, I've decided I'd limited myself to, I'm just buying the trades of Spider-Man, and that's it. Because like
that's kind of where I'm at too. Like if there's a cool story I hear about,
like Spider-Man just kind of got reset again. So I was like, I'll go pick up the first 2 and I'll read those.
Like my girlfriend just discovered that Batman Earth 1 series. And so I got her for Christmas the graphic novels of those.
That's what's up. So, I really want to get into like playing guitar.
It's different though.
Yeah,
that I look at a little bit different.
That's like a skill. That's a skill building exercise.
Let me put it this way: that's different for you because you're going to go out, you're going to buy a guitar, and you're going to play that one guitar. You're not going to be like me, where it's like, okay, I got into repairing these. Now I have 20 guitars, and you know,
that. I don't want to be like you.
Yeah, no, you don't want to be like me, where you go too far into it. That's the other reason why I can't. Like, I have that now. That kind of overtook comics for me. That's kind of my thing too. Like, if I get into something, it's to replace a different thing that I'm doing.
Like
that replaced comics for me.
I started to go much harder into Lego, and in order to do that, I stopped collecting Marvel figures. Yeah, and like in the Power Ranger figures that I was getting, I would buy them all the time, and I was like, you know what? I enjoy Lego more because I get to sit there and build stuff, and I get to do it with my kids. You know what I mean? Like we sit together and we build. Dad gets a big set for himself. But then they're always like, well, I can help you build the figures and stuff. I'm like, absolutely, you can build the figures or do a small part.
The other one for me is like that I always want to get into, but I won't because I know I'll get too far into is building those Gundam things.
Oh yeah.
I really want to.
I look at those all the time.
There's a couple times we've gone to the Japanese market where I've been this close to like, I'll just buy this one. I'm like, no, if I do it, this is going to be bad.
Well, yeah. And then lately, obviously Pokemon cards are huge. I don't necessarily care about those too much, but like, trading like sports cards are back in like a fucking insane way.
Okay,
you don't know, but like as someone who collected them as a kid and did it for a while, and I had a card store in my neighborhood and I bought and traded, they died for a long time. That thing has fucking skyrocketed. And Matt, you're on TikTok and stuff. You probably see that stuff come up constantly.
Yeah, it's ironic you say that because my son asked me this past week. He was like, "Hey, Dad, I think I'm gonna open up my trading card, like what I want to buy." And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, I think I'm going to start looking into going like sports cards. And I was like, you mean like baseball and football and stuff like that? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, man. Like if you want to start working on that, I'm cool with that. Like
the thing about that stuff is like, you gotta be real smart about it out of the gate. Cause you have to know what products are actually like worth it because there's so many cards that get put out and all this kind of stuff. And like, breaks and then like all that kind of shit and all these people chasing one-on-ones. Like the biggest thing that just happened, and it's crazy because it happened near us, is there's a one-of-one card that's signed by LeBron and his son, and it was one-of-one. Fucking insane. It was found pretty close to you. Tim Waukegan guy pulled it.
Oh wow,
fucking crazy. Like, and that's a card that like
that's
forever
crazy.
Will have value, even if his son never plays a minute.
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. That card is forever insane. Or like look at Magic cards. They put out that one ring card. That guy pulls it, sells it to Post Malone for $2 million. But it's because they're chasing these cards. Like I sit there and I think like there's a card store not too far from me. I could walk in there.
Oh God, I can walk to one.
Well, there's a major one down the street from us too. It's like I could walk in there and just tell them like, what's the hottest box right now? Take it and rip it and like get deep in that, but I can't do that.
You know what? Sports cards would interest me. Magic probably would, but I can't.
If I was gonna do anything, it'd probably be Magic, just because like they're starting to do cool crossovers, like those Fallout ones are tempting.
Those look cool as hell.
Yeah.
Well, you know, when I was a kid, because I had a couple like hockey sports cards, but the big thing when I was a kid, and I don't know if this is a big thing for you, I don't know how far this stretched, but at least in my area, Marvel had like a lot of like collectible trading cards.
You know, it's funny
that I remember collecting a lot of those.
I have like 4 sheets of Marvel cards right now.
I gotta find. I mean, I'm sure they're in my basement somewhere, but I still have those.
All of my old basketball, but it's all the problem is all the stuff I have is from the era.
This would have been the same era as Pogs.
Yeah, I had the Michael Jordan Pogs. Those were big for me.
I had a lot of Pogs.
Yeah, I
still have Spider-Man Pogs.
I still have all my old cards, but they were from the era where they just produced so many that they're not really worth anything. And there's not a good way for me to get rid of them. Is the problem?
Yeah, because that was the weird thing for me as a kid. It was like I had like superhero cards. I didn't have like sports cards. I had Batman 89, 92. They did a run of cards. I think I had some from Batman Forever. And then these Marvel cards were like huge.
Yeah.
I remember going to summer camp and kids trading those. So that was like a huge thing. And then Pogs hit. So
yeah,
that was like a summer. That was a big summer of Pogs. So
we used to play a lot of Pogs.
Pogs were huge, man. Last email we have comes from Jose from Austin, Texas. Hey, yo, with Xbox seemingly circling the drain, quick question for you. In your history of playing video games, is there any single console you regret purchasing? Thanks. I want to say we had this question once, but I can't remember.
Maybe. We might have had
it. Was like, what do we regret not giving, like not purchasing?
Maybe. Okay. Yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Do I don't.
The PS3 at launch.
Yeah, I didn't buy a PS3 at launch. I waited until the slim version.
I don't think I bought it at launch, but I bought it like a month or two. I don't know why I bought it. Probably because I was working there and I had the money.
Yeah.
But like that system sucked for years.
It didn't get good until probably 2009, 2010
minimum.
Like around the Heavy Rain era.
Minimum 2 years. It was absolute trash. 2009 Heavy Rain-ish was probably when.
Wasn't that when Killzone 2 hit and it wasn't the game that people wanted it to be?
And really when they released the Slim and they finally started to learn how to make games for it.
Even when they did the third redesign, the Slim was always the best version of that system.
Yeah, I have the third.
The redesign with the top loader. I have the top load
one hooked up just because it's the one I can find right now.
I think that had the biggest hard drive. So they put out like a 500 gig version of that one.
I don't know. That system sucks too. But
it wasn't a good system.
Yeah, PS3 throughout its entire lifespan wasn't really good.
Not like the PS2.
No.
I think they had a generation where it just was not great, and then they were very fortunate to have kind of the same things they did at the beginning of PS3 in a way happen to the Xbox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, they had this. They had dumb comments at their launch too. Remember this? It's $600. Well, if you don't like it, get a second job.
Yeah,
that's that is something someone said.
I guarantee you can't find one in the store.
Yeah,
if you find one in the store, I'll pay you double. Every store has PS3s in stock.
Yeah,
we got 2, and they were both returned.
I remember when it came out. I remember being able to go because I still worked at Target at the time. And I remember walking in and it not being a big deal.
No,
not like the 360.
Nobody cared. So we had two reserves. We got 2. We sold them, and both of them returned them because the first day on eBay they were going for like $3,000, and the second day on eBay they were going for like $800.
Yeah. The only game that I wanted to get in that first era, and even then I still waited an additional year, was Metal Gear Solid 4. That was the one game where I was like, man, it's only on PS3, and it's still only on PS3
for now. But yeah,
for now. I didn't buy one at launch, so I don't feel like I regretted that system.
That's probably the only system I think I made a huge mistake.
Dreamcast, I don't regret the Dreamcast because I ended up really liking that system.
I got that second.
I liked Code Veronica.
I love that system.
I bought that from
what is it?
Was that I bought everything late?
You bought everything late?
Yeah, when I got my regular Nintendo, the Super Nintendo was coming out. So it was okay. And then when I decided to upgrade to get a Super Nintendo, the 64 was around the corner. So I was always a generation behind everything, and I was okay with that because I always feel like bugs are worked out before then, and then I'm able to purchase the best thing running. So I just always kind of
what's another good one that makes a lot of sense? The 3DS. If you bought a 3DS a day, they were $250.
Like the original version,
the 3DS a day it came out, they were $250. There was no games. And it was so bad for the first year that they had to institute that ambassador program where they gave you 10 really good Game Boy Advance games that were then locked to that system, which could be, I think they could be transferred, but it was a one-time shot kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Because it was the certificate would move. But then it also was weird because you couldn't get those games outside of them being the ambassador thing.
I want to say, I'll give you one.
Because 3D sucked.
And I'll give you one. that I don't regret getting the system, but I regret waiting overnight to get the system, and that is the Wii.
Yeah.
Because me and my buddy, we waited out in front of the other one of the other GameStops up Randall Road.
Okay.
I'll say. Yeah. You know what I mean.
Oh, that would have been, was that the one I went to first?
No,
it was the second one. Okay.
It's the one that's still there today.
Okay.
Let's put it that way.
God, I haven't said
because at the time that system came out, I worked at the store that I worked at with you, remember, briefly for that holiday, but for whatever reason, that store manager would not let me reserve that at my store for some dumb reason.
Stupid.
And I don't remember what the reason was. And I just was like, fine, I'll just go wait out at this other store and reserve it there. And I did. And we waited all night. And just getting that system, and like Zelda for me was disappointing because of the waggle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then I even went and hunted a GameCube copy of that and still couldn't get into that game. But nothing ever clicked for me on the Wii. Like, I had it for 2 years and then ended up after the shitty Castlevania fighting game, because I had to play it, and I still have it. I'll never get rid of that. Mm-hmm. That game is amazing for a bad game. After I got rid of, after that, I was like, there's no point. And I traded the Wii in, and I never looked back. Like, that's the thing. I never looked back and was like, oh, I missed all these games on the Wii. I just didn't care.
It was a pretty lame system. I don't like you. I don't think I hated it or regretted it, because, it was kind of a GameCube at that point after that. And the thing about the Wii was that was the only video game system my mom ever played in her life.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I set it up on the main TV in the house because you had to have room. So,
Wii Sports was a huge thing.
My mom. I remember my mom and my sister and I played that together, and that was like nobody else in my family games. Like, no one. My two sisters don't. My mom never did. My dad played Tetris with me on the Game Boy. Like, that was about it.
My parents did until the 64. When it turned 3D, they gave up. But they would play like Mario, and my dad was big Tetris.
Yeah, my dad would play Tetris.
The original Tetris, and then we went. I remember going for his birthday and we went and bought him Tetris 2 for the Super Nintendo. Remember that? Yeah. He's a huge Tetris fan. But then, like I said, when we got to the 64, it became too complicated for them.
For sure.
And also, look at the 64 controller.
Yeah.
So I'm sure now that I look back as an adult at the 64 controller, it looks like a nightmare. And that's probably what they thought, 25 years ago when they looked at that controller, like, the fuck is this? So, but yeah, at that point, they kind of gave up on playing stuff. So I can't remember if my parents played the Wii or not. I don't remember. If they did, it would have just been Wii Sports.
So I think for me, I don't necessarily want to say I regret any system. If I have a regret, I regret not ever buying something specific.
Okay.
So, like, for me, I actively am looking for like a PS Vita because I just really want one, and I want to start collecting.
You never had one, right?
I never had one, and I always had the opportunity to like buy one. I mean, I've had grown up money for a while. I just never
It's a really cool system.
Pulled the trigger in buying one. So I think for me, if I regret anything, it's not buying like a PS Vita when had the opportunity.
It's funny you say that too, because like at the time it wasn't really a good system, but I think like Kyle just said, in retrospect, it's a lot cooler of a system than I
there
thought.
are some really cool like games that you can only play on
and it did a lot of cool things too, where like for a long time, like I had all the Final Fantasy games on that. Yeah. Final Fantasy X, you could play on that and upload the save back and forth to your console. Like that thing did a lot of cool stuff. It was just
that thing did a lot of cool stuff, and I think what kind of like put it to bed was the Switch. So the Switch kind of like
it was already like on a downswing because they stopped making games for it.
Yeah,
remember it would be like it got to a point where it was like there was one Vita release every 2 months.
Didn't it come out it came out like the year before the PS4,
that was
right?
Another weird thing. Yeah. It was like you should have held it and said it's a companion piece.
They should have.
And done more with that than
I don't have one anymore, which that I regret, but I have a Vita TV, which those just keep climbing in price.
I have that hooked up over there.
And I have my Vita games and my memory cards and stuff too, which again, that was also the bummer of that system was the proprietary
all that
memory.
Bullshit. Yeah.
It was always shitty.
Yeah.
Sony way of life.
At least Nintendo has that right with the Switch, and I would assume that will continue with whatever the next thing is. Here's an SD card.
A decent amount of space, and you can put a regular SD card in it.
So the Vita came out in 2012, and then the PS4 dropped in 2013.
I remember. Well,
so that means
I got one.
That would have been around the same time as the Wii U, then.
It was just a weird thing. It just didn't need to be out a year ahead of the next console. It would have been a good companion.
Yeah.
Which the funny thing, if you think about it, is like I almost like the Wii U was definitely probably definitely a worse off performing system than the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't regret the Wii U purchase. I had a lot of good times with the Wii.
I don't either, because that system has a very solid 10 games.
Yeah, it does. What really sold me was games. that summer that Mario Kart 8 came out. And I went over to Ross's house every night and played Mario Kart until I was like, I'll just buy a Wii U.
Yeah.
And then bought the Mario Kart bundle. Yep. So
that's what I did.
Yeah.
It's a cool system. But yeah, no, I'd say the Wii is my only real regret.
PS3 launch window is mine for sure.
I would say the launch window for that.
Huge mistake.
I could see an argument if you wanted to argue that maybe the Xbox One wasn't the greatest system at its launch because it was kind of broken.
I liked a lot of those
games. Regret it.
Dead Rising.
The games are what saved me.
I
like the service, the system's dashboard was trash.
Slow.
The party system was somehow broken on the one for a while. There was a lot of problems with that. So. And then this current generation is the only generation I bought both systems day one outright. And I don't think I'll ever do that again either.
No point.
So,
well, you're not even going to have the
no
choice.
Point
you're
now.
not even going to have a choice.
There's not going to be a point now. So, but yeah. So good question overall. And as always, send your emails to podcast572@gmail.com. Otherwise, we are going to wrap up this edition. We'll be back in another 2 weeks. I think the next time we record is that Final Fantasy time?
A couple days before it.
It's a couple days before it.
So because Final Fantasy is 18 days away.
It's 18 days away. Wow, you're up to the day.
2/29. It's on leap year. Weird day to release something, but it's on leap year.
So, otherwise, we'll be back in another 2 weeks with another edition of the podcast. As always, thank you for listening.
Thank you, everyone.
Be safe.